Anyone extra signature? Okay. Okay. Anyone want to split say a few words for inspiration devotion?
Okay.
Anyone want to say a few words for inspiration devotion?
Okay.
You want to?
The devotion?
Yeah. Okay. All right, I believe we are ready. Thank you, Ms. Anissa. At 9:02, I would like to call this regular meeting of the Taos County Board of County Commissioners to order on March 7th, 2023. Madam Clerk, if you please call the roll.
Commissioner Behill,
Present?
Commissioner Mascareñas,
Present.
Commissioner Romero,
Present.
Vice Chair Romero, Chair Brush.
Present. Thank you. And Vice Chair Romero, would you like to say a few words for inspirational devotion this morning?
Oh Dios supremo, autor de la paz y amante de la concordia, bendecir el ejercicio de estos efectos espirituales de esta Junta de Gobierno, que reflexionemos sobre los principios verdaderos en nuestras obligaciones y que tengamos sabiduría para decir con cierto todos nuestros impuestos, que acordamos nuestras acciones con las reglas de conciencia y virtud y por el ejemplo, los buenos y los sabios. Gracias.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. And if everyone would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Jaramillo, if you would please lead us.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if you remain standing for just one moment, Commissioner Behill, would you lead us in the salute to the flag of New Mexico?
Absolutely.
I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico,
The zeal symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
Thank you very much. Our next item on the agenda is item 6, which is approval of the agenda. Commissioners, what are your wishes?
I move.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Mascareñas. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Behill,
Yes.
Commissioner Mascareñas,
Yes.
Vice Chair Romero,
Yes.
Chair Brush.
Yes, thank you. Item 7 is an important part of our agenda, our awards and recognitions for our Taos County team. And Ms. Elam, is this your item? I don't see a name here. Actually, this is item 7A, new hires for the month of February 2023.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners. New hires, we have Lucas Phyllis joining our ADC department, Gabriel Roscoe as an appraiser tech, Trevor Lopez, road maintenance operator 1, and Cassandra Romero as an EMT. So if you see them around, please help me welcome them to the Taos County team.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It's important and exciting to have people in those key roles. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
And item 7B are years of service certificates for February 2023. Mr. Jaramillo, are you taking this item? Thank you very much.
Before we recognize the individuals on the agenda, I'd also like to recognize, he's not here today, Rick Trujillo from our Public Works Department. He has served 21 years. Dolores Lujan in our Planning Department has been with us 19 years. Cindy Fry in the Sheriff's Office has been here 9 years. Joseph Eric Gonzalez, Public Works, 9 years. Nathaniel Sandoval from the Detention Center, 9 years. Blanca Lopez in the Clerk's Office, 8 years. Bernie Valdez for Senior Programs is 8 years. Jeffrey Vargas with the Sheriff's Office is 6 years. Cheryl Rascon in the Assessor's Office, 4 years. Isaiah Martinez in our Facilities Maintenance Department, 2 years. And Ron Sadell in our Purchasing Division, he's been here 1 year. Felix Sanchez with our Senior Programs, 1 year. And Amberly Wayland from the Sheriff's Office has also been here 1 year. So I'd like to congratulate them on their service. With that, I would like to call upon Chris Medina. This is not going to be the first time we see Chris, but if Chris, if you could come on up. We have We have this certificate of years of service certificate in recognition of 25 years of service to Taos County presented to Christopher Medina from February 1998 to February 2023. The Taos County Board of Commissioners, Bob Romero, District 1, Miguel Romero, District 2, Darlene Vihil, District 3, Anjanette Brush, District 4, Ron Mascareñas, District 5, and Brent Aramia, County Manager. Thank you, Chris, for your 25 years of dedicated service. And one thing I can tell you in the last 8 years that I've worked with Chris, he's dedicated, he looks out for his employees, and he has a passion for it. And I've already mentioned this a couple of meetings ago, but even when we're shorthanded, he is jumping in the ambulance, he's covering shifts, and that shows a lot of his dedication. Thank you, Chris. This next individual, he can't be here with us today. We were trying to find him coverage. His name's Tommy Martinez. He's one of our transfer station attendants. He's actually covers one of the busiest transfer stations, and he's dedicated also. And we have a hard time trying to get him to have days off, and so we're always trying to find him coverage so he could take some time off. But he's there, rain or shine, and he lets us know when the bins get full. But this is years of service in recognition of 20 years of service to Taos County presented to Tommy Martinez, February 2003 to February 2023. Our next employee is Melissa Ortega. Melissa is very kind, and she looks to help our different customers. She's had a couple of different positions in the county, but she is very well-rounded. She is a dedicated employee, and Melissa hardly ever misses work either. She's another one that the only time she misses work is for her kids.
Yeah.
And she does take time off, but her kids is the other thing that's important to her. And she's very dedicated also to the community. Years of service certificate in recognition of 15 years of service to Taos County presented to Melissa Ortega. Thank you, Melissa. Sergeant. Our next certificate is to Greg Trujillo from the Sheriff's Office. Greg is another individual that is very compassionate and with our citizens. I've seen his work firsthand, and he has this way of communicating with the individuals that he's talking to out in the field, and I've witnessed it a couple of times. And he has this easy tone about him that I think serves him well. And I've seen it a couple of times, like I've mentioned. And thank you for that, Greg. And I know it means a lot to the commission. Years of service certificate in recognition of 15 years of service to Taos County presented to Greg Trujillo, February 2008 to February 2023. Thank you, Greg, for everything you do. Our next employee is Elena Struck. Elena is also a dedicated employee. She's been with the Elections Bureau. I'm sure during your election process, you've gotten to know Elena, and she's very thorough. She has a lot of knowledge, and she's also has this great personality, and she's a lot of fun. As Ms. Montoya nods, But Elena does bring something special to the team as well. Years of service certificate and recognition of 10 years of service to Taos County presented to Elena, struck February 2013 to February 2023. Thank you, Elena.
Thank you.
I don't know if you wanted to add anything, Valerie.
Yeah, I just want to say I am grateful to have such a great employee as Elena. She is, I've known her a long time. She has progressed so much in that position. She is patient, which you need a lot of in that position, and she's dedicated, and I am extremely grateful for her in that job.
The next employee, he wasn't able to make it today, is from our adult detention center. He's Leroy Vihil, Lieutenant. The years of service certificate and recognition of 10 years of service to Taos County presented to Leroy Vihil, February 2013 to February 2023. And we'll make sure we go over and deliver this to Leroy. And with that, this is our individuals we'd like to recognize, and I want to personally thank them for their commitment to Taos County. And they all bring something special. And like I said, I've witnessed it in everybody that we've that's been here. And I know Tommy is also dedicated, and Leroy's dedicated as well. So thank you, commissioners.
Thank you, Mr. Jaramillo, and I want to echo your thanks to everybody we've honored this morning. We're the ones who are sitting up here during these meetings with the Taos News in the room, but you all are the ones out there doing the important work, whether that's answering a question or answering an emergency. So thank you for everything you do every single day.
I
Commissioner
personally
Vihil.
want to say thank you as well. I mean, when you look at the years of service, that's a lot of experience, right? But, I know each and every one of you has a different personality, and I can, stand here and tell you, when I think of Elena, I always see her smiling. Melissa, such a compassionate, intelligent individual. I've dealt with each and every one. Chris, who I got to know a little bit more in the last year, such dedication. And I remember Greg, from way back when I was an assessor. So, there's a lot of people here that we can speak about, but the years of experience, and that's I think at the end of the day, what you all have in common is you love your community, and you're here to serve. And so we, as as chair has indicated, that stated very, very well, we sit up here, but really you are all the ones that get the work done. And so, I think sometimes the community doesn't realize that, we get the credit up here. Sometimes we even get the fault, the blame. But the truth of the matter is that the community doesn't function without you all. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Well said, Commissioner Vihil. Okay. Then thank you all again. And that takes us to agenda item 8, which is public comments. We'll first talk with anyone who's here in the room, and after that, we'll invite folks who might be watching on YouTube to call in at 575-737-6310, just not quite yet. Let's look to people in the room here first. If anyone wants to come up, you have 3 minutes to say what you will. And just a friendly reminder, we cannot engage, answer your questions, etc., because whatever you're bringing up is not listed on the agenda, and by the state Public Open Meetings Act law, we have to publish what we're going to talk about at least 72 hours in advance. So that's why we can kind of frustrate you all and just sit here and listen. So is there anybody in the room who would like to use their 3 minutes? Ms. Baker, good to see you this morning. And please just state your name and which neighborhood you're from.
My name is Lawrence Baker. I'm from El Prado. Good morning. I'm going to speak to agenda item X, A, and B, 10A and B, about the airport subsidy. And then I'll give you my remarks when I finish. So I am not opposed to commercial air service in Taos. As a matter of fact, I just flew round trip on Taos Air. It was an all-around great, luxurious experience. But bear in mind, this is essentially a private airline that prides itself on luxury as the flight attendant told me. It primarily benefits a private corporation owned by a billionaire. The service is essentially only for those who can afford it, and the statistics you are provided this morning make it abundantly clear the majority of Taos seniors cannot afford it. 83% of the passengers have an income over $75,000. 89.4% of the passengers have a college degree, arguably the reason they have over $75,000 in income. 83.8% of passengers are white, non-Hispanic. Almost 60% said direct service created an interest in second home ownership. Again, arguably something we do not need more of. Taos Air passengers are not people who need subsidizing, especially on the backs of lesser affluent Taos seniors who are also paying taxes for the subsidy Taos Air is asking. These passengers would probably be happy to pay more for a seat to have the convenience of getting here in one short hop. I know I would. It really bothers me, making me feel guilty, and should bother you that I could have the convenience of a nonstop flight because a minimum wage earner holding down several jobs made it possible. That is not right. The airline should stand on its own 2 feet, just like any other private corporation must do, or be wholly subsidized by the corporation reaping the most benefits. If you're going to subsidize air service, at least make it the kind of service that will fly inexpensively to destinations like Denver and Albuquerque. In other words, subsidize air service that will primarily serve the local people. Thank you.
Thank you, Lawrence. Is there anybody else in the room who would like to speak? Ms. Anissa?
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners. I'm clocked out right now because I had told Brent, so I'm clocked out. I am not the worker. So I'm talking about the airline, JSX, and the airport. So I am born and raised here. I did move away for 17 years, came back single mom with 2 kids. My kids have been flying on Taos, that's not Taos Air anymore, but JSX, to get to Denver, to Dallas, to stay with their dads for the summer. As a single parent, I use the airline. I've used it a couple of times. My sister uses it to come from Dallas. So I feel, as a single parent, who I do not have $75,000 income, I am a college graduate, but I do it on my own. No help from anybody else, but it's a blessing not to have to drive by myself with 2 kids to Albuquerque, then have to pay for food or whatever I need there to come back. So to me, it's a blessing. Not to mention that I think Taos is kind of stunted in growth because we keep turning off good things because people can't do with. So I'm one for this because I believe that it is a good thing, especially for my kids. So that's what I wanted to say. Okay, I'm clocking back in.
Thank you, Anissa. I appreciate you clocking in and out. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else in the room would like to share their thoughts on whatever is on your mind this morning? Okay, then we'll go to anybody who is watching on YouTube or Facebook. If you have a comment, you can call and it'll ring right here, 575-737-6310. Yep, Andy, got it. Thank you. So again, if you're listening online, if you want to make a public comment, pick up your phone and dial 575-737-6310. We'll give it just a minute or so. How long should we give it? We've never done it this way before. Okay, seeing no one on calling in. I'm going to put it back on Do Not Disturb, and we've gotten to everyone in the room. Then that will take us on to agenda item 9, our minutes. Item A, team, is approval of the February 17th, 2023 joint meeting minutes. What are the wishes of the commission?
Madam Chair, I believe there's a correction on.
Thank you.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I believe there's a correction on the February 17th meeting on the yes votes on the, I think it was on the resolution for the county commissioners and on the actual agreement for the yes vote for the town of Taos councilors.
And what is the correction,
The
Vice Chair?
correction is that the yes vote is not noted.
The yes vote is not noted. Okay. With that correction, if we get that added in, with that correction, do we
With
have
that
a?
correction, I make a motion to approve the minutes of
Thank you.
February 17th.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Commissioner Mascarenhas. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Vehil,
Yes,
Commissioner Mascarenhas,
Yes.
Vice Chair Romero,
Yes.
Chair Brush.
Yes. So the meeting minutes for February 17th joint meeting with the town of Taos are approved with the correction of adding in that vote. Thank you. Item 9B, approval of the February 21, 2023 regular county commission meeting minutes. Commissioners.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Mascarenhas. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Vehil,
yes,
Commissioner Mascarenhas,
Yes.
Vice Chair Romero,
Yes.
Chair Brush.
Yes. Okay, thank you. That moves us on to agenda item 10, presentations. And item 10A is a Town of Taos update on summer 2022 economic impact and updates on 2023-2024 air service. And I have Manager Andrew Gonzalez's name here, but Ms. Amrijo, it's good to see you this morning. Thank you.
Good morning, commissioners, and I apologize. Town Manager Andrew Gonzalez is on jury duty, so he's actually next door trying to figure out how he can get over here quickly.
Thank you for stepping in.
Yeah, so what you have up on the screen is the actual economic impact report. It's a large document, I believe it's like 70 or 80 pages, and that is done by Southwest Planning and Marketing based out of Santa Fe. So I'm going to ask if we can put the presentation up, which is the other agenda item, and I'll reference the actual bigger report. So just for those commissioners who are not familiar, with the air service, we also provide, between Taos Valley Corporation and the town, we pay for this third party to do an assessment for economic impact. And we do this every year. And so I'm here to present on the summer program from last summer, 2022, and compare it with the previous summer of 2021 to show you the economic impact of the air service. So if you can go to the next slide, please. Okay, so this is a public-private partnership for those listening in the audience. This is something that started in 2018, but for these purposes, I'm going to look at 2022 and 2021. That summer program are both 13 weeks long, and we flew twice to 4 destinations, and that's Dallas, Austin, San Diego, and Los Angeles. Next slide, please. The economic impact of direct spending from flyers who originated from Texas and California for both summers are listed here, and it shows a 5% increase. I want to point out that summer of 2021 was a challenging summer, as we had we were in the middle of the pandemic, or somewhere in the pandemic, or we had the Delta virus that kind of changed some things, and we saw load factor kind of go up and down during that time. And then during the 22 summer, we had the fires. So we had 2 challenges with those 2 summers and still had air service with a good economic impact. So we hope moving forward that, fingers crossed, we don't have some big issues that we have to deal with, and maybe see these economic impact numbers be even higher. The spending categories for each of these are listed here. This is lodging, food and meals, transportation, outdoor rec, attractions and shopping. These are all related to tourism. And it's what the state utilizes when they look at economic impact. Next slide, please. This is a breakdown of the impact of direct spending for each community in the Enchanted Circle. This is something that the Enchanted Circle Council of Governments had gotten together several years ago and identified air service to the community as something that could be significant and impactful. And so we break it down in the impact report to make sure that we're following how it impacts every community. So you can see here summer. Again, this is summer. I'm not showing the winter, but these have a lot of opportunity, of course, to increase as well as more people know that we have the service to get to and from Taos. Next slide, please. The visitation numbers, percent of nights spent. Again, this is broken down by the communities in Enchanted Circle. And there, I mean, I'm sure you can take a look at these. They're good. I mean, people are hanging out in the community, so that's good. The next slide, please. Full-time residents versus part-time residents versus visitors. These are how flyers identify themselves. As you can see, full-time residents, there was an uptick, as well as with part-time residents. So what we're seeing is not just visitors coming, but also residents using the service year over year, an increase in that. Next slide, please. Okay. This one is a good one to show because business travel has increased significantly, and we know that when air service comes to a rural area specifically, we want it to be able to diversify our economy, and having the increase in business travel is an important factor here. People moving in and out of here for different reasons other than just leisure or tourism. Next slide, please. And these are just some data points that I took from the big report. I won't go through all of them, but average nights spent in New Mexico, the more time people spend here, the more money that they spend. So we're seeing those longer nights, like 5 to 7 nights. And I think that's also because of the schedule as you're flying in, because there's only 2 round trips per destination. The visitors have to accommodate for that. Let's see. So you can take a look at those numbers if you have any questions. And then next slide, please. And just for the public and as a reminder, the air service subsidy by the communities are paid for by lodger's tax. Lodger's tax is a 5% in the town. It's a 5% tax that visitors pay every time that they stay at a hotel, B&B, or vacation rental. So these are taxes paid by visitors to put into a program that both benefits visitors and the community. This is a great way to stimulate the economy and allow what visitors pay to benefit, where the community can benefit. And this is based on a House bill that was passed in 2016 that allowed us to do minimum revenue guarantees to offset the cost of the air service. And then there's a link to, next slide, please. There's a link to the whole impact report, as well as previous impact reports on taosgov.com. And that can be made available if you want to email or call me. And I apologize, Andrew's town manager is still not here, but he wanted to update you guys on moving forward, what we're doing when it comes to air service. Right now, we've extended the sole source so that Taos Air, operated by JSX, can do summer service and winter service for FY24 or summer 2022, winter 2022, 2023. In the meantime, I do have a scope of service that has been written in order to get air service development assessment. Basically, what we want to do is hire a company that reassess what the best routes are, or to confirm or determine existing routes or new routes. So we have heard that the routes for Denver and Phoenix might be something of interest to the community, but we really need the data to show that it would be feasible to do so. So once we have that scope out, hire a company to do that air service development assessment, whatever comes from that third-party assessment, then we'll go out for an RFP for air service. And so we're seeing that a year from now, we may have the existing air service, or we may have a new one, depending on what that assessment says. So is that clear on that? Because he was going to talk about that. So hopefully that was clear. If not, please let me know. And I think that's it. So I stand for questions.
Thank you, Karina. Commissioners, any questions for Ms. Armijo?
If no one else has one, I have one. It's not, the question, Karina, isn't directly about air service, but I know that you know about tourism. And so my question is, on the fires last year, the Calf Canyon and Hermit Peak, do you feel there was an impact on tourism during that time?
Commissioner Romero, yes, we followed that pretty closely. We saw everybody was anticipating a very busy summer, and when spring hit, our phones didn't stop ringing for cancellations of people coming here. And then because the smoke lingered, it definitely was a big impact for our businesses during that springtime, and it had a kind of a ripple effect throughout the beginning of the summer. Although by the end of the summer and fall, we saw things in a better situation. But during that time, businesses really felt the heat there, literally. But the hotels, the vacation rentals took a big hit because most of them got canceled. The hotels, the bigger hotels like the Sagebrushes, those hotels, we had firefighters staying there for a long period of time. And whether or not, depending on how long they stayed, because if they stayed longer than 30 days, they didn't pay lodger's tax. But so they were fine for the most part, but I would say that the small businesses and the small hotels and vacation rentals took a hit during that time.
So lodger's tax was impacted.
Yeah, well, it was steady only because of the rooms were taken up by firefighters. Yeah.
But nonetheless, the small businesses were impacted.
Definitely the small businesses were impacted during that time.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice Chair Romero. Commissioner Vihil, you have questions?
I'm going to yield to you because I know you've got some questions. I have a comment, but go ahead.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions just to mostly about the economic and fiscal impact. And this is not like Ms. Anissa and Ms. Lawrence Baker. I've also flown Taos Air, and it's terribly convenient. I'm not a parent, let alone a single parent, but I live in a household of more than one person with just one car. So you can imagine what it's like if you need to get to Santa Fe or Albuquerque or Denver to an airport. So I've used it. I would probably use it again when I can afford it. But my questions are kind of about the economics of it. Because I know we've said that the summer season, it's direct spending 1.1 million for Taos County and 3 million for the whole area. But I'm wondering if, and I think I asked this last time too, is like, isn't that assuming that none of those people would have come here and spent any of their dollars if it weren't for Taos Air? It feels like Taos Air is claiming all of the activity when like a third of the people said they were coming, as you said, to visit family and friends, and approaching half are coming to stay in their second home. Wouldn't those people probably come anywhere, at least some of them?
Commissioner Bush, thanks for the question again. I think it's more nuanced than that. I think we could extract the data and maybe get somebody to go deeper dive into that. But I would say that visitors, let's just call them visitors and not the second homeowners or permanent homeowners here. Visitors, we know for a fact that if they come directly on a flight, they're going to stay longer and spend more versus flying into Albuquerque, staying in Albuquerque a night, maybe making a day in Santa Fe, and then making their way up to Taos. So that type of data, we know, the percentage, we could extract the data of just the visitors and not the second homeowners and try to figure that out. And there's probably other nuanced things we can look at to really extract the data even more. But for me, it's not just the tourism, it is the businesses. I mean, I do talk to a lot of people who own businesses here, and being able to come here and deal with their business here is even more significant than the tourism economy. But I would say that if we're willing to put a little bit more money into the economic data services, I would love for the county to help out with that. It is very expensive, but to kind of dive deeper into what you are asking.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I just have one, it's more of a comment because I don't know if we know really what's behind this too. I noticed 42.4% of respondents, and you get a good response rate to this survey, I got to say, like around 10% or something, like for a survey, that's excellent. But over, 42.4% indicated that they stayed in their second home. And if my memory serves, that's up almost by 10% from last time we looked at the economic data. And I don't know if that just means there are more second homeowners who are discovered it and taking advantage of the service, or if we actually have more second homeowners, which is an interesting trend that is connected to our housing stock and how we're growing or not growing. And so I noticed that because it makes me kind of like think about like what we're subsidizing with our public dollars. But that's more of a comment. I don't know if you have, that was another one of the significant increases in numbers. So it kind of stuck out to me.
Commissioner Brush, I think we did have a question about the average length of living in the community, and I think it was 17 years. Again, it is hard to say because this is summer, not winter. So it could be a combination of people who only come here in the winter, mostly come here in the winter, are now utilizing the service more because it's convenient in the summer. Whether or not these are new homeowners versus people who've lived here for at least 10 plus years, again, we could extract the data and figure that out.
Thank you.
Okay,
Commissioner
so,
Beal.
yeah, thank you. I, like you, have several questions, but I think it's going to take a deeper dive into this. I actually would like to suggest, commissioners, that we would direct our staff to, have at it, and we can certainly ask our questions or send them over to our staff. But I think it's going to take a deeper dive. This is public money, and we're getting a lot of concerns out there. And as I'm looking through the data, I personally have a lot of questions. Things aren't just quite adding up. And so I just would suggest that we have a deeper conversation. And okay. Right, because this is going to, at the end of the day, it's going to be about funding and how much do we put towards it. And I know that's what the community is concerned about, is this is public money. And so we need to figure out how much are we really making from Taos Air or from this organization. So what I'm getting at is I would recommend that I think it's going to take more than today.
And if I might, Commissioner Vihel, that you make me think of another question that just goes back to the numbers, and I'm curious if you guys have thought about this. We have the 1.1 million number of direct impact and the 3 million. But my question when I see those numbers is what percentage of our total economic activity in the area is that? What part of our economic activity does that represent? Because without that context, that could be a really big number, or that could be just like not such a big number. You know what I mean? Like without having the number in context of like what it represents of the whole pie, I can't quite evaluate what the impact is.
Commissioner Rush, if you don't mind just commenting on that. The way we do it at the state level for the tourism is we look at, for every dollar we put in, how much do we get in return? So versus, the other way that you're looking at it. That way, in tourism, for every dollar, we get $7 in return. And I believe this is close to that, if not more. And so it's the investment that you're putting in, and how the businesses are reaping the benefits of that investment. So, and again, this is lodger's tax, which can't be used for a lot of other things. And this is one of the very few things that it can be utilized for, because it's a proven model for stimulating the economy. So.
Right, thank you, Karina.
And with
Commissioner
that, yes, Chair, if I can continue asking a few more questions. You are correct, lodger's tax, and that's important when we think about how much we get from lodger's tax and how much we might be using of that money to put into this organization. It's a little bit concerning because we do have other things that are happening within the county that we need to consider. There's a lot that didn't happen during COVID, and there's a lot of ask at this time that's coming forward. So we need to make sure that we don't in any way jeopardize the other events that could definitely tap into lodger's tax. I think it's not so much that, I'm not saying that it's not bringing people to Taos and the economy is not, we're not benefiting in some way. My question is how much, And so I think that's where the deeper dive needs to happen.
Thank you, Commissioner Beal. Gentlemen, any questions for Karina? Okay, thank you for the presentation and for listening to our questions. Appreciate it. Thank you. And that takes us to our next related item under presentations 10B, discussion regarding a request for Taos Air Service funding for summer 2023. Mr. Zvada, Director of Aviation from Taos Air, welcome.
Welcome.
Good to see you this
Thank
morning.
you. Good morning. Good to see you. I am Joe Zavada. I'm Director of Aviation for Taos Air. So happy to be with you in person this time to discuss everything that's going on. So if you could, next slide, please. So just for the new members, a brief history of the air service. It really was, we're able to operate at the Taos Airport because of the longer runway that was completed in 2017. And at that time, the town of Taos came to us and their vision was to use the airport as an economic driver of diversity. And they really challenged us to figure out how we could use it. And we met that challenge and began operating Taos Air in the following year, winter of 2018, with the two Texas markets, Dallas and Austin. We followed in 2019, adding the California markets. And then, of course, we paused for 15 months because of the pandemic. And then restarted with summer service, our first summer service in 2021, and have been operating summer and winter since then to all four markets. And then just for this season, we have a new partnership with JSX, who is an operator based out of Dallas that has much more operational capabilities, both on the flight side and as well as the customer service side, that allows us to really offer a more comprehensive product. And previously we only had two airplanes, so if one of them were to break down for some reason, it really impacted our operation. So now we have much more operational redundancy in the fleet, and then on the back end with customer service and things like that. So, and one of those things, just quick highlights, is on the reservation side, the ability to, we've always maintained, tried to maintain fares at a reasonable level for local travelers by what are considered off-peak for tourism are sort of the prime flights for somebody departing locally. So we've always kept those at a lower fare. But with JSX's capabilities on the reservation system, we're able to actually do more targeting of that and target locals with more competitive rates, more competitive fares. And a local flyer can go to jsx.com/TaosLocals and get a promo code. We'll change the promo code throughout the year, but that'll always have the most recent there, and use that to book their flights, and that'll be the best deal for local travelers. And on average, we see about 1,000 to 1,200 bookings per season from originating locally. In the summer, that's about 35% of our total bookings. And in the winter, it's about 10 to 15%. The air service provides connectivity to four major transportation and business and healthcare hubs. We see a lot of passengers citing access to healthcare as a major benefit of the service. Obviously, business and industry connections, we're seeing, as Karina mentioned, we're seeing more of that, an uptick in business travel. And then the friends and family, as we heard this morning, of connections there, and more opportunity to visit grandchildren and things like that. Those are always my favorite stories, or a family's first trip to the beach or something like that. Next slide, please. Oh, no, hang on one sec. So just structurally, it's a scheduled charter service under Part 135, DOT Part 380. So because of Taos Airport's certification, the maximum air service it can support is the 30 seats. And it's under this FAA Part 135, DOT 380. So we could not, the airport could not support something like an American Eagle or United Express on a larger platform. And then, of course, all the way up to like a Southwest 737. We can't do that because of the certification level of the airport. So 30 seats is the most we can do currently. And it's also a good balance between what the community can support logistically in terms of number of beds and things like that, while also delivering a significant economic impact versus something like a 9-seat aircraft, which would be the next level. It would, those type of services cost somewhat similar, but deliver much less economic impact. Next slide, please. So just a quick highlight of where the community subsidy over the past season. So 2018 through 2020, we didn't ask for any community subsidy. It was really a proof of concept period where we wanted to see if air service in Taos would work and if people were interested in using it and would be, significant impact to the community. We learned that pretty quick within the first two seasons, so 2019, and then of course the pandemic hit, so we had to pause for 15 months. We kept the planes and everybody employed, just waiting to come back, and we did that in 2021 for the summer. And in that fiscal year, we asked for $735,000 in support, and the economic impact return on that money was almost $20 million for the entire region. And then in 22-23, we asked for the communities to bump that up to $1 million. And we're in the middle of that winter season right now. So we're expecting an economic impact to increase slightly as more people find and use the service. So next slide, please. I won't, this is just straight out of the town's economic impact information. The only thing I want to touch on here is one thing, I think to maybe direct it to your questions, Commissioner Brush, was one thing we see with air service in the industry, especially in the community where air service is introduced for the first time, or the first time in a long time, is that people start to visit more than once. So those second homeowners jumping 10% could be people coming more, coming more than once, and we hear that often from people that allows them to make more trips. So versus having to drive and all the extra time that takes. So. Next slide, please. So looking ahead, the funding request for the coming year would be summer 23 and winter 23-24. We're for the summer, we're maintaining the same schedule we have the past 2 summers, with 2 times weekly to all 4 markets for 13 weeks starting June 30th. We're asking for the same community subsidy, that $1 million, and that's broken down. The ask is broken down from 200 from the town per season, 150 from the county, 150 from the village, and then our TSVI would pick up the rest. We're projecting economic impact of $3 to $4 million for the summer. Hopefully, we're closer to that $4 million, with barring any major environmental or pandemic-related issues. And then winter 23-24, maintaining that roughly $20 to $22 million economic impact. Next slide, please. So regional, just real quick, just on the an industry highlight, regional support of air service is very common. It's hard for an operator. It's really impossible for an operator to come to a community like Taos or any, lots of rural communities that are away from the beaten path and have a small population to come and make it work. It's very expensive to run an airline, and there is a lot more low-hanging fruit, quite frankly, from an operator's perspective. So there are lots of programs to support air service in communities like ours. On the federal, it's the Essential Air Service Program, which unfortunately we don't qualify for. The state has a recently enacted program called the Rural Air Service Enhancement Grant that we hope we can participate in the future. And then on the community level, air service development programs. And those can look anything like what we do here to more, much more robust programs with that sort of have public funding with private funding and up to the tune of $5 to $10 million annually for some communities. So as Karina mentioned, the town is redirecting the support of air service to go through an RFP process on the local level, which we fully support, and fully support the bringing on a air service development consultant to assess what's best for the community and what makes the most sense for those funds to put through. That is very diligent for a community to do. So we're in full support of that, and we'll participate in any way possible with our data, and then of course be ready to bid on what comes out. So with that, I'll stand for questions.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate the
Yes.
information this morning. Commissioners, any questions? Commissioner Vehil? Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Can you tell us the funds from Taos County, how would those particular funds be used?
It's all to support operations. So it's with the JSX, we simply get an invoice for air service. It costs X amount. It's less the revenue generated, and then we pay the difference. So the county money would go into paying that difference.
Thank you. Gentlemen, any questions for Joe?
Madam Chair, on the 30 seats they have available, what is the capacity? What percentage of the seats are filled on the flight?
So I got that right here. We're currently, for the current season, we're at 66% load factor across the whole network. That's current, so that we're still selling for the last 3 or 4 weeks here. So hopefully our goal is to get to 70%. We'll see if we can make that happen. Last winter, we were at 67% for across the whole network for the whole season.
Okay. Also, could you explain a little bit more about the RFP process and what is the timetable on this?
It's really more of a town initiative. So I direct that more to Andrew.
And Mr. Gonzalez, Manager Gonzalez did come here. So Andrew, if you want to come up and take any of the questions, please, if that's okay with you, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, my apologies for my tardiness. I was next door hanging out with Judge Shannon for jury duty. So the town is looking at a two-phase approach with the RFP. One would be the planning, which would be the routing for service, and identifying the best locales by which Taos would serve. And I'm not saying Taos Air, but whoever the successful bidding candidate is. Once we've established the route service, then we would go out for RFP for the actual air service itself. And that's something that we're hoping to put through the Enchanted Circle Council of Governments so that there's buy-in from all the municipalities around the Enchanted Circle, and inclusive of Taos County. And so that's kind of the process that we're in. Right now, where we're at is we're asking for the summer service to continue to be funded. The town identified within our mid-year budget to go ahead and approve that. As you know, our fiscal year ends like yours, June 30th. So July 1st is the new fiscal year budget. And we always end up in this kind of conundrum because we have invoices coming in from previous fiscal year that have to get paid out in the new fiscal year. So what we did this year was we budgeted in the mid-year so that those funds are just carryover funds, and that way we could pay in either fiscal year. The reason behind that is because we know we won't have the air services study done, nor will we have the RFP ready for release for the air service itself, and to not impact the upcoming summer flight service, inclusive of not just the tourist season, but the uptick that we've seen in locals utilizing the service until we actually get something in place. So the town did post on the Sunshine Portal the sole source providership once again. With no protests. So we are in a sole source providership through the remainder of this year. But the hopes is to get us the ability to have a RFP respondent on air service by roughly September, October before the winter season starts.
Thank you, Manager Gonzalez.
Sure.
Any other questions? Bev? And Commissioner Vihil, do you have any?
I actually have a question maybe our manager can answer. On average, what do we receive from lodgers tax annually? Is that something that you might be able to?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Vihil, I believe it's close to 900,000
Annually?
annually. I can get the exact figure. Chris was looking into it.
Chris, if you can shed some light.
Yes, I
please.
did check on this, and it's closer to $400,000.
Oh, 400,000, okay.
About 900.
And I'm just talking about annually, what we get on average, not
Annually.
what we have in there right now, but what we, on
Let me-
average.
I think I can check pretty quick.
Okay, that would be great. Reason why I'm asking, Chair, is because what I'm looking at is there's 300,000, that's the ask, correct? A total of 300,000?
I believe you have 150 for this summer and 150 for the upcoming
Okay,
winter.
and,
right?
and what I'm getting at is I'm trying to figure out, if we're getting 400,000 on average, and we'll get that confirmation, there, 300,000 would go to Taos Air.
And can I add just an
Yes.
interesting point for the summer season, based on the economic impact study, it looked like we got close to 60,000 in tax revenue. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think I saw 20,000 in lodgers tax revenue related to air service last summer, 19 in GRT on lodging, and 20,000 on other GRT, just to kind of
Right.
go along with what you're
Yes.
asking.
Okay, so you understand my question and why?
Yeah, that's
It's
a concern.
$60,000, yeah.
And Madam Chair, as a follow-up to the question, what is the lodgers tax used? How does the county spend that money, and what are the restrictions on that?
And that has been, and I'll let our
Yeah,
management
we-
team speak to that, that has been different the last couple of years, right? Because events have just slowly been coming back, but you can maybe speak to what has been supported in the past.
Over the last 3-4 years, we have supported Taos Air. It's one year was 200,000, then we've gone up to 300,000. So it has, I believe, since Joe had the data up there, since 2018, 2019, we've been supporting Taos Air. That goes into a separate fund. Then there's the promotional fund, which the commission's more familiar with, is to promote events, heads and beds, to advertise different events, and that's in a reimbursement basis. That's that grant process that we mentioned last week, that not last week, at last meeting that we're going over. And so there's a set aside of promotional funds. Then there's also non-promotional funds, which can go for parks, can go for the air service. You can use it in a limited basis at the Ag Center. And also, you might have that PowerPoint we gave you in front of you 2 weeks ago as well. There's on the uses of it.
But isn't the restriction pretty much to tourist related?
It's related to tourist-related activity. It's a way to attract tourists to the area, if it's the promotional funds or the non-promotional funds, you need to use it for tourists. That's why there's that a little bit of a carve out for the parks and rec, because if you use it to, you can't really, to an extent, you can use it to promote concerts, but, or to provide the parks for concerts, but
So we
it is
can't use
related.
it to maintain roads or
No,
pay salaries?
no. So we do have, some money that we can easily support this if this is the will of the commission.
Thank you, Manager Hermel.
I think Mr. Madrid.
Did you want to?
Chris, were you able to find out that number, or? I'm just curious, because this is, if we're getting 400,000 and 300,000 is going to go to this.
Yes, Chairman, Commissioner, it's closer to 400,000 a
It
year.
is closer. Okay,
Sorry
thank
for
you.
misspeaking.
That's okay. Thank you.
Thank you. You good?
I just have another question. Thank you,
Sure.
Chair. So I know you said, Joe, correct, is your name? My apologies. Joe, our money would be going towards operational. How much goes towards promoting the Taos Air Flight?
Historically, we've spent about around $1 million a year in air service promotion. It's a combination of air service promotion, actually, Taos Air flights from point A to point B, as well as destination type marketing.
Okay, and because we do contribute, can we also have you promote some of the events that take place within our community?
Yeah, we'd be happy to collaborate on,
Yeah, I'm just wondering.
on stuff like that. Yeah, absolutely.
That's a nice idea. Thank you. Any
Okay,
other
that's all I've
questions?
got.
I just have a couple of quick last things. One thing I know that Brent has talked about what we've contributed in the past. Do you anticipate, and this might be an impossible question given that we're going out for RFP, right? But do you anticipate making an ask each year for however long in the future? And if so, will
Yes.
there be an increase in the ask?
Yes, and whether it's Taos Air or whatever operator, air service in Taos will have to be supported. It just is not financially viable for an airline to make work. So yes, it'll be, I'd encourage you to think of it as an ongoing thing to keep air service alive in Taos. Whether or not it increases will depend, I think, on the level of service. I think the RFP and the Air Service Development Assessment will shed a lot of light on that. One thing, as an example, like if we hear a lot about making the service year-round, especially for locals, something like that, significantly increasing the amount of flights that we do, could come with an increased ask of support.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
And Chair, I have one. Oh, go ahead.
I just have one last thing. I appreciate you offering the local discount, and I wish I had known about it in January. But I'm just wondering, like, how do people find out about that? Obviously, your numbers show that people are taking advantage of it.
Yeah.
But some of us who do read the news or like pay kind of attention didn't know about it. How do locals find out that they can buy at a discount?
We're trying to shout it as loud as we can and encourage everybody to tell their neighbors. It's kind of we don't want it to get too wide. We want to keep it within the community, so that's kind of a balance. But historically, industry trend on these things, local discount programs, there's usually a really low take rate on them. People just don't know about them or forget about them or whatever the case. So yeah, it's encouraging that we're seeing so much, and yeah, please, anybody listening, please tell your neighbor, jsx.com/Taos Locals.
Thank you, appreciate it. And Commissioner Vihil, you had another question.
Yeah, I guess it's more of a comment. I've always had concerns with Tusky Valley's portion. And it still till this day bothers me that, because I think Tusky Valley does in fact, benefit the most. At least that's just what I'm seeing. And so I'm just wondering if those numbers will ever change, because they're always at the same, they never change. And it's always less than what's being asked from Taos County.
Yeah, right. And I think that's an important note, like when you look at what makes this air service work, it's the community support. This year it's $1 million plus $4 million of our private funding that supports it. So without that $5 million of support, an airline like JSX or anybody else would not be able to make it work. So yeah, that'll always be there, and or will need to be there for whatever operator is going to fly in the future. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. And to that point, I know I just had a couple of questions, but one last one. You mentioned that you had presented the town of Taos, and that was on the agenda for the town. Have you gone also back to, especially like our Colfax County neighbors, like Angel Fire and Eagle Nest? Are you planning on going?
We're focusing on the big three: you all, the town, and then the village.
Okay.
Primary contributors the past couple of years, but we'll absolutely approach Colfax County and Red River. There has not been a lot of interest. For example, Angel Fire won't really even return our calls. So yeah, we'd love more participation, and I think that's. There's a financial part of it, but there's also like the buy-in of the community to make an air service work, and like Angel Fire as an example, if we can get their community to buy in and use it, which we see their resort shuttle at the airport all the time, that's what makes it work.
The flight I was on, there was a guy heading back to Angel Fire,
Yeah.
heading home, and he talked all the time about how it was more convenient for him to fly here. So
Yeah.
tell Angel Fire.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll leave them a voicemail.
Another one for, thank you, Mr. Spada. And Commissioners, any further questions or comments? Then this is just discussion item. So we will take it back, and that's, as I think it's been explained, when there is something like this on our agenda, we don't put each other on the spot to like make up our minds right now. We like give ourselves like the next meeting to actually include it on as an action item should it come back. So
Yeah.
appreciate you both, all three of you, sharing information with us this morning, and appreciate the work that you're doing.
Yeah,
So
appreciate the
thank you.
opportunity and the time, and I'm available in the next couple of weeks for any questions along with everybody.
Thank you so
And
much.
Chair, I think there will be some additional questions, so we'll thank you for that.
Yeah.
We'll certainly be talking a little bit more.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, folks, this takes us on to item 10C, which is a PowerPoint presentation regarding Sipapu Resort plans for improvements. And this is going to be presented by Mr. John Paul Bradley, our Sipapu Resort General Manager. Thank you, Mr. Bradley, for being here this morning. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. Thank you, Commissioners. Mr. Mascarenas, my neighbor. How are you? Yeah, thanks again. I just wanted to kind of give the commission an update on our process of our master plan. It's our 70th year in operation this year, and the Bowlanders started working on this project back in the 80s. So it's been a long process. But yeah, I'm assuming you guys see the same slideshow I do. So awesome. All right. Let me catch up with you guys. So yeah, I just wanted to update you guys on this and how we're working with the Forest Service. James Duran, our forest supervisor, early on in some of our meetings said, hey, I really want you guys to front load, get out there in the community, talk to folks. And at first I shook my head, I was like, what are you trying to make me do? And after pushing 50 public meetings at this point and a few gray hairs and some pats on the back and not too many run out of the rooms, I see what he was doing. And we've made a lot of great changes to our plan. And this is just kind of what I want to show you guys is the changes to the plan. So we can do our next slide. A little bit of update because there's new faces since I was here in 2018. Sipapu, we just continue to grow. We're positioned, I think, pretty well in our community with the other resorts and whatnot. Despite the recession of 2008, our affordability comes into play. Drought, I tell you what, the Bowlanders, Lloyd and Olive, they manicured those slopes so well you could ski on a heavy frost. So it doesn't take a lot of snow. And so during drought, we have a good product. ironically, during COVID, when everybody was looking for something to do and there was restrictions on capacities at the ski areas, we actually had room for growth. And we saw our largest ski season ever during COVID. And a lot of folks discovered us because of that. So yeah, we just continue to grow. But what my new thing I keep hearing is, shh, don't tell anybody about my secret little hill. And so it's this finite balance of trying to manage the growth and maintain what we have. So just weighs a little bit. But yeah, so I mean, we keep seeing our peak days grow. Originally, when I started down here 20 some years ago, 400 people was a busy day. With school programs now during the week, we'll do close to 2,000 school kids from Raton to Berlin and everywhere in between. Those numbers really kind of boost our midweeks, but we're seeing close to 400 skiers a day during the week now. And has a lot to do with our variable price ticketing and trying to say, hey, come ski on a Wednesday for 35 bucks and come on a Saturday, you're gonna pay 65. So trying to shift people's behaviors as well, so we have that more balanced experience. So we can hop next slide. But those are kind of why, like I keep hearing, like, why are we doing this? And we're growing, but we want to maintain a good recreational experience for everybody. So kind of to reiterate, or I feel like I reiterate because I've mentioned this a few times in meetings, but one of our major kind of projects in this process would be, or in this proposal would be, it's called I forgot the name. I call it a chondola. It's a gondola and a chairlift. I think it'd be really fun. Hey, let's meet at the chondola, bro. It'd be a really fun lift. But it'd be a 6-passenger chairlift that has a gondola car every once in a while. So not only can skiers and snowboarders enjoy it, but grandparents as well can hop on it and ride up it, or we're so school-based and we do so much with the school programs. The instructor could ride in a gondola car with their kids up. And the top of the mountain actually would have a really great beginner train. It's kind of like a flipped mountain where we're actually steeper in our existing permit area, but as you go up towards the top, it kind of rounds off and it has this beautiful beginner train. But if we send people to the top of the mountain, we don't want to overtrain them and make them come back down. So you have the chondola, they can ride back down, have a good experience, come back tomorrow, come back next trip. So the expansion would involve about 20 additional trails. This really great facility up on top for skiing. It'd be a lodge up top so non-skiers could hang out as well. And then once you get people up there, you want to make sure that you have the facilities that then they don't need to come back down. And then also would enhance our summer activities up top. So we can do next slide. Like I said, we keep seeing growth, economic growth. I'll throw out there that we're the first or second largest lodgers tax in Southern Taos County. I'm not sure how many folks, I'll have to go catch up with Joe in the parking lot about Taos Air and see how we can get some of that impact. But yeah, I mean, we have lodging at the resort, and we definitely see the impact there of contributing to the lodgers tax. And the other thing I think that we've been able to do with this variable price ticketing, and our goal with the master plan, is to continue to be aggressive with our wages and our number of jobs that we are able to provide for folks. One of our big things that I kind of enjoy being able to see and talk about is how we're continuing to try to train locals in becoming lift mechanics, vehicle mechanics. Like everybody thinks, oh, I'm not a ski instructor, or I don't do this. I mean, we got F&B, we got admin, we've got housekeeping. I mean, I've got a wastewater treatment plant, and on and on. So there's a lot of other opportunities that we really are trying to tell people, like, hey, come find a job. I bet we have something for you. And then again, by having year-round activities, we can keep those folks employed year-round. So that's the other thing. So we can jump to the map. So like 2 more slides. One more. So this was the proposal back in 2019. And the lower left corner, there's a yellow and black dotted line kind of within the larger dotted orange and black line there. That's Sipapu as it is, or that's been our special use permit boundary since 1952. And we've pretty well maxed that area out. We have the runs, and then we decided to glade everything in between the runs. So there's skiing within a ski area. It's I hear folks all the time who are like, I can just go zigzag here and there and all over the place. And it's like, well, we've tried to maximize everything we got. So, and then the lift I was speaking about, the Chondola, which is identified here as Chair B, or Chair A, I'm sorry. And then you can see up the very top there, there's some little red lines up there that would be a couple moving conveyor belts or beginner carpets, and then a beginner chairlift up top. And that's that zone that we could really utilize up top. You can see in the contour lines, they're real flat up there. And yeah, and we can download folks. I can't change the lay of the land. The mountainside, it is what it is. Luckily it faces north and holds snow really well. But it's not a steep hill. But at the same point, the largest demographic of folks who ski are intermediate skiers. So when I look at that expansion area and I see all blue and green runs, I'm like, well, that's for the folks who, the largest demographics out there. So, there is some more advanced terrain, but it'd be minimal. And then off to looking at the map to the right, we have a lift there proposed. We call it the West Side Lift, or the Chair B. And then just kind of lay of the land there. There's the Highway 518. There's the community of Las Mochas there to the north of the ski area between the river and the highway. And then there's another area down farther on the lower right side that was a proposed parking lot by the Canyon Tiamayez trailhead there. It's the old highway corridor. There used to be an old bridge, and they've rerouted the highway there. So, so that's the map and kind of what our thoughts were. And then, like I said, we've gone out into the community and talked to a lot of folks. So we could do next slide. And we heard a lot of things. Significant excitement about the new terrain, the facility, a lot of positive feedback about the economic impacts that it would have and the growth and jobs. Talking with Governor Quincello, he always stands out over at Picarise. He's just like, thank you for the jobs. I really appreciate it. And there's concerns about the scale, the size of the project, the timing of the project. We were, like James Duran said, let's take our time and do this right. And so our timing was, we thought it would be faster. And the folks in Las Mochas, particular, a lot of second homeowners there in Las Mochas that were concerned about the size of the scale of the project and whatnot. Folks talking about, what about, can the highway handle it? On and on, things like that. Pedestrian safety, EMS capacities. It's great to see Christopher here, right? I followed up with him and had conversations with him, like, what do you need from us? What are you seeing? Things like that. Concerns about the wildlife, the environment. Majority of the area is in an area that is called the Camallus Inventory Roadless Area. Means you can't build roads, but you can build ski trails. Water quality and consumption, right? If we grow, we're gonna use more. And then, like I said, again, the concerns about that west side parking or west side lift and the Canyon TMI's parking lot. Concerns about people driving back and forth down to a parking lot, back to ski area, back and forth. That lift would be right in the backyard of folks in the Las Mochas area. It's on Forest Service land, but would be across the way from them. So, so we could do next slide. So we revised things. We went out there, got a lot of comments and suggestions, and heard a lot from folks. There's a lot going on in this map. Underlaid is the map we previously looked at, and those trails have been shaded out or back to gray. And then we remove, so you can see that we pulled the special use permit boundary that we're proposing back. It reduces what we were proposing by like 190 acres. And then it reduces the skiable terrain by about 20, 21, 22 acres. And it also removes that west side lift, which decreases the lift capacity by about 50%. By decreasing lift capacity, by decreasing trail capacity, there's all these fun formulas you figure out when you're planning a ski area. It allows us to also reduce the parking lot, the Canyon to My Eyes parking lot area, and keep the parking closer to the resort. When we looked at this, we still wanted to try to maximize vertical drop in trails instead of having short trails, nice, long, intermediate trails. And so we just went back and forth with planning groups and got out on the hill and rewalked stuff and climbed through the woods. And there's an increase in trail density here, but it's we've overall reduced our footprint, and by removing that chairlift and getting it out of, like folks would say, the backyard. The other nice thing is when I look at this map, with one lift, I can ski every run on the mountain. It's pretty neat how it all can tie in. But lots of feedback from folks to get to this point. The other things I didn't mention in here, I think that are just kind of relevant with where we've been the last few years is we are proposing within our existing permit boundary a snowmaking pond, and then we have one at the top of the mountain. It'd be good for fire mitigation. I know during the fires, we looked at actually pumping water up the mountain to heli wells so that they didn't have to drop in elevation and then burn fuel to get back up in elevation. We're going to have to cut down a significant amount of trees to make a corridor for them. So we didn't pump. We ended up just filling tanker trucks, and then they drove it up the road for them. But they definitely like that idea, that concept of not losing elevation. So hopefully we won't have to deal with that again, but nonetheless, that's and that was also something that we incorporated with the feedback was like, there's not a minimum stream flow in New Mexico, but we love fishing and love the water, so we don't want to suck the river dry. And so trying to find ways to store water during like peak runoffs or during flooding periods and things like that versus during low flow. So, and store the water that versus using it. So, yeah, so those are kind of the big highlights on the changes. It's still very, very doable. I can't change too much more if I get rid of one more lift than for hiking, but some people, that's really becoming a thing. So, yeah, next lift is just kind of a note for me to remember, but yeah, remove the chair, reduce the capacity by 50%, lift capacity, reduce the acreage by 190 acres, skiable terrain by 21, and reduce that Canyon TMI's parking lot as well. So summer improvements. It's a couple more slides. Next slide, I think. One more. Yep. So this is our summer proposal. Kind of a lot of blobs going on. The really large blob there would be a zone that we would look at to develop mountain biking. There is a trail. It's hard to see, but it follows the outer perimeter of the special use permit boundary. That would be a hiking trail. So folks could say, hey, I'm in a wheelchair. I'm going to ride to the top and meet you up there for lunch, and the rest of the group's going to hike to the top. And then up top would really like to, again, using that flat contour line and stuff up there, do a very easy hiking trail up top. We have a phenomenal disc golf course at the resort, and we'd like to do a disc golf course up at the top of the mountain as well. There's a proposed zipline tour, so it'd be an aerial tour, multi-stage aerial tour, so it'd be several hours, and you work your way down. And yeah, be be a real fun event. The other things like summer tubing and using those carpets would. The really cool thing about this is that people are like, wow, I could actually, you put me in the woods, right? I'm not along the highway. Like I'm not in a base area. You're putting me in the woods, and so that'd be a really neat aspect of it. And we'd use the chondola to get people up and down the mountain. So yeah, and hopefully by incorporating all the summer activities, we'd be able to keep more people employed in the summer too, and have more lobster snacks. So anyway, that's what I got. I just wanted to give you guys an update. And yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. There's one other slide, but I kind of hit on it. So
Thank you, Mr. Bradley.
Yeah, you bet.
Really appreciate you coming and giving us an update. You said something that I think is the theme of the morning and actually probably every day, which is like, how do you manage growth while also maintaining and preserving what we've got, right? So appreciate your awareness and efforts toward that, especially since you've gone out and listened to the community, listened to your neighbors, and not just held the listening sessions, but actually responded to the community and what you heard. So thank you for being willing to go through that process and to be willing to compromise with the community. That's really important.
It was a good learning lesson, right? Like, because you in your mind, you think you have the right idea.
Yeah.
But it's really a neat plan now.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's great to hear that you say it's better based on community input. And not only that, but you've, by showing up here this morning, taught us a new word, chondola.
A chondola, yes.
Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments for Mr. Bradley? Commissioner Mascareñas.
Chair John, thank you for your presentation. Coming from a kid that grew up with a school program going to Sipapu in the 70s, and seeing what it's turned out to be, I'm excited. I mean, I have 13 grandkids that come and visit. I have nephews and nieces that go to Sipapu all the time. Now that the castle was there a couple of weekends ago, they spend the whole day there having fun. You know, coming from a kid that, you know, learned oops and flower and all those runs up there, you know, this is pretty cool to see, you know, where we don't have to go to Red River to take advantage of these other amenities. We can do it in our backyard. And that's nice. That's a nice option to have. Thank you for touching base with the community. Thank you for caring about our community. And, you know, I think this is a good plan moving forward, and, you know, I'm looking forward to it.
Well, it'll be a while still.
I understand.
Because it's going to take time.
Understand.
What Ronnie was mentioning was the forever and ever, we've done a February Fun Fest where we build a giant castle out of snow and carve it with chainsaws, and kids we spend a whole week building it and they spend a few hours destroying it. But then it stays there. And then this next week, I'll use that snow to refill the base area since the midwinter thaw and it's spring break coming. And so we maximize and maintain our ski school area. So it's a great way to store snow without people going, why is there a big pile of snow here? So, to speak on the parking, it was the first day all season where I had cars parked along the highway. I had 14 cars and I was get off the highway. It's because we probably had close to 300 non-skiers at the mountain enjoying and playing on that castle. And
Wow.
yeah, it was pretty cool. So, yeah. So
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Commissioner Vigil has a
Yes,
question.
I would like to also thank you for taking the approach that you're taking. I always say that you can have the best idea, and if you don't, share that with the community and get some feedback, it's very hard to go forward. So I appreciate your approach. As Chair has indicated, one of the biggest concerns is that balance of growth and holding on to what we know and making sure we don't lose our traditions and culture. So I appreciate the approach. Thank you very much.
You bet. And, hitting on that, like our tradition, like we've always been affordable. And one of the things that's concerned folks is like, well, if you grow, are you going to get more expensive? And when I started 22 years ago, we were like a $35 lift ticket.
Mm-hmm.
If you went to Sipapu today, it's a $35 lift ticket.
And
So,
truly appreciate that,
yeah.
Chair. We really
That's
do,
a
because
goal.
I can tell you that my family can't afford to ski
Yeah.
at Taos Valley, and it's really sad because I remember the days when I could. It was a lot less, and there were programs, even I think the county employees would get a day. We don't get that anymore, but it's nice to know that the locals will be able to afford.
I hear it all the time. I mean, that's part of, going through this is we hear it, and like, we don't plan on, paying for this project via raising ticket prices. It'll be the growth,
Right.
that'll be able to do that. With our variable price ticketing, prices can range anywhere from $9 to $99 so far this year. But I was looking at the different price points in the quantities of tickets sold, and the three highest quantities sold was a $59 ticket, a $35 ticket, and a $9 ticket. And all of those are over 1,200 tickets each tier. And so it feels good to say, well, yeah, we had $59 tickets, but I also had almost equal amount of $9 tickets. And I mean, it's nice to see the locals out there.
So, John, can you tell me how many employees does Sipapu employ at this time?
We budgeted for 130. We're still trying to get there. We're about 108 right now.
Okay,
So,
and when this is all said and done, this project, what do you anticipate?
I don't anticipate a whole lot, like that number might move up to like 150, but the difference right now is we dropped down to about 30 in the summer, and we think we'd be more like 65, 70 in the summer. And so it'd be the summer activities and the running the lift year round. That's where we'll see the larger employment, like being able to hold, because I mean, we're doing an employee survey right now, and one of the questions is like, would you like to stay on for the summer? And we get more folks who want to stay on than I have positions for in the summer. And so, I mean, it's great that people come back year after year to work, but it'd be great to be able to maintain and keep them on year round.
And when you say they come back, are you saying that a portion of the employees are from out of state and come during the time, or is it locals?
No, locals. I think we're really unique from like our lift, like I'll use lift operators as a standpoint. It's very common. In the industry, that's a position where folks, they're skiers or snowboarders. Like they're there so that they can ski down at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I go out all the time on a side-by-side or a snowmobile to go get my top operators because they're just locals, and they're like, oh no, I don't ski. I'm just here for the job. And so they're really reliable, and they don't call in sick. You know who I'm talking about. And it's so funny because they come back year after year, and we get guest service comments all the time. And it's like, I'll call him out. Randy he makes me feel like I'm at home. I'm family, yet I don't even know the guy, right? Like those are the guest comments. And if I asked Randy to get on skis, he'd look at me sideways. But he's worked for us forever. So
that's great.
And there's a lot of those folks, yeah. And we saw a good uptick in folks from the other side of the hill this year, Mora, Chacon, Holman, and stuff. And so that's really been great to see.
Well, it seems like you're home for the locals, and it seems like that. I hope that continues as well. One last question. Do you intend to expand the lodging facility there? Because certainly as you're growing, it just makes sense. Is that part of the plan?
We did go through a couple years back with the Taos County Planning Department, a 3-story lodge that we were looking at building, and then COVID hit. And that's definitely slowed down the master plan process and meeting. But it also kind of slowed down that process and looking at that. We did look at it did a ROI on that project again. James, the primary investor, James Coleman, he's eager to jump on that project. I'm a little less risk averse, and when I see that mortgage, it makes my hands quiver a little bit. But there is some talk about trying to move that project ahead.
And I thought I had one last question, but I really do have one more. You talked about trails for biking, and so obviously that would be at a fee. Correct? This isn't like I'm going to open my mountain and anyone can come.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Figured, but just thought I'd ask. Okay.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Beal. And thanks again, John. We really appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Oh, Mr. Vice Chair.
Real quick, John, The Sipapu, of course, is in Taos County, but it also is within the Carson National Forest. So my question is, do any of your projects require permitting through Taos County planning?
The buildings up top might. I'm not, I know things that we've done on the past. I mean, a lift shack is smaller than 100 square feet and things like that. And so we don't have really any other projects on the mountain. The lift construction in 2015, was built by a company out of Grand Junction, Colorado. They structural engineers and all that. None of that went to review with the county. But it does get very scrutinized review with the Forest Service has their own lift engineers. They're up this weekend doing lift inspections. Another thing I'll learn. I'm not sure. So, but maybe on some of those larger building projects, I know like when it comes to the water system that would be involved, that would be environmental, New Mexico Environmental Department. So there'll be different government agencies that have oversight for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Thank you, Vice Chair Romero, for the question. Good question. And now I think, John, we're done with you. We'll let you
All
go.
right,
But
I'm gonna
thanks,
go
thanks
head
again
back.
for showing up and talking to us. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. And now, with apologies to those who are here for item 11A, I would like to move that we take a 10-minute break before we proceed with the rest of our agenda, if there's a second.
Second.
Okay, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll for a vote on a 10-minute break?
Commissioner Behill,
Yes?
Commissioner Mascarenhas.
Yes.
Vice Chair Romero,
Yes.
Chair Brush.
Yes.
So process would be, planning will present what is being proposed first. Then the applicant will go, and then anyone in opposition will have some opportunity, 15 minutes apiece. And parties will be sworn, and clerk will swear them. And then yeah. Because in a public hearing, anything is stated is no, we open it first, then planning goes and gives a summary of what's and give each side an opportunity, then just if you run into any snags, just absolutely.
Okay, so we'll open it up, planning, applicant, see if there's anyone in opposition. I'll say the phone number again. And if there's anyone public commenting, we close the public hearing and then we discuss and do it. Okay.
You can ask, the commissioners can ask questions after someone presents. You can ask if there's any questions from commissioners for those witnesses. You know, sometimes applicants, you say, well, I want to do this. And then so you kind of got to work with them to get them to say. If he's going to be testifying, you know, like if there's site visits, if there's questions that come up that are about his personal knowledge of things, yes. But normally, they just do
Thank you.
yes.
Yes, and unfortunately, I haven't gotten.
It actually then furthers. Yeah, he was, and right now he's running it for the national.
Yeah, and so,
Yeah, okay, yeah. And it's funny because it's probably over. Yeah, we get to watch it. That's where He also has the right to So it comes down to this. It takes us a while to us to get prepared, to get reviewed, the. Well, and she's done. That's good. It's going to get more. It's going to be about to figure out how to have everybody happen. Stay well.
All right, folks, I hope everybody enjoyed listening to us on break. Is there a motion to come back into our regular meeting?
Make a motion to come back to the regular meeting.
Thank you, Commissioner Mascarenhas. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Vice Chair Romero. Madam Clerk, please call a roll.
Commissioner Vehil,
Yes?
Commissioner Mascarenhas,
Yes.
Vice Chair Romero,
Yes.
Chair Brush.
Yes, thank you very much. So we will continue with our agenda item. We're on agenda number, item number 11, public hearing. Um, And item 11A, thank you, Mr. Thoki. We're all overhearing everybody today. Item 11A is a public hearing for the discussion, consideration, and action regarding a bed and breakfast liquor license application for Desert Flower Resort LLC, doing business as Desert Flower Boutique Hotel, located at 4035 State Highway 68 in Ranchos Taos, New Mexico. And we have Jody Wadrich, who is the applicant. And we also have Rudy Perea from our planning department. And if you will all bear with me, this is my first public hearing I'm running. So did a little double checking on process, but if we stumble a bit, please be patient. So I'd like to open this public hearing this morning at 10:50. And we will start with Mr. Perea presenting our planning department's report.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Chair, Commissioners, members of the public. Yes, as you can see in your packet here for this request, the applicants have met all of our zoning requirements. They did a great job with rehabilitating the building. They are now using for their bed and breakfast. They followed all our rules and regulations with regards to building codes. our zoning regulations, and they've completed all the necessary inspections in order for them to operate their bed and breakfast. So, Madam Chair, Commissioners, I stand for any questions at this time, but in a nutshell, they have complied with all of Taos County's applicable regulations.
Thank you, Rudy. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for our planning department? Okay, then thank you, Rudy. And then I'd
Thank
like
you.
to invite our applicants up to present their position. And I believe, Madam Clerk, we do need to swear in Mr. Wadridge.
All right. Do you swear and affirm under oath and penalty of law that the testimony you are about to give is true and factual?
Yes, I do.
Please state your name for the record.
Jody Wadrich.
Thank you, Mr. Wadridge. Good to see you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners. So yeah, we're here to, for the application for the liquor license. We have, as you know, we have renovated this old motel, and we've put, gosh, over, hard to say, but over $650,000 in just renovation because of the septic, the well, the electrical was all had to be abandoned and start from scratch. The septic system is like an advanced flow system. I'm told the second one in Taos area. So, so anyway, we've done a lot of work to get us there. I was just saying earlier that it's really fun because we get to meet every person and talk to them since we're serving them breakfast. And we have over 85% of the people that have been coming so far are brand new to Taos, never been here. So it's really fun to get to invite them and tell them about Sipapu, and they go up the mountain, it's 27 minutes away, and you know, tell them about the restaurants locally. So so I think, you know, we're really trying to advance the community here with what we're doing. As far as the liquor, it's only beer and wine. We're only serving 2 drinks. That's our max that we're allowed to serve to only the people that are staying in the bed and breakfast. And we're working with Vivac Winery because again, we're trying to keep everything local. So that's our
Great.
plan. So.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
And now if there's anyone who would like to, in the public or in the room or online listening to all of us, if you would like to make a comment in opposition to this application for the liquor license. And if you would like, if you're online and you would like to listen again, the number to call in and make a comment is 575-737-6310. And I'll turn it off. So we'll give folks just a minute. And meanwhile, is there anyone who would like to speak in favor of the application? Sure thing. And again, you'll be sworn in by the clerk.
Oh,
yep.
Okay. Do you swear and affirm under oath in the testimony you're about to give that you that is true and factual?
Yes.
Please state your name for the record.
Xochitl Wadrich. Thank you for letting me share. I just wanted to say one quick little thing about our business plan. Obviously, we've put a lot of money into this. And one of the ways to recover the money is through the sale of beer and wine. And our hope is to be able to one day open a commercial kitchen. We've had a lot of requests from the community to be able to serve to the public, and we can't serve to the public until we have that commercial kitchen. And as you can imagine, the cost of that kitchen is a lot. So we're hoping that the service of beer and wine will help us to fulfill
Raise
that
money,
vision.
yeah, raise money so that we can one day open a commercial kitchen.
Yeah.
We also do serve a lot, like we've gotten a lot of locals that are actually coming to stay with us. We have 2 rooms. If you haven't checked this out online, we have 2 rooms with huge copper tubs in them that can fit 2 people in them. So people have come to take advantage of that. And then obviously my wife's an amazing cook, so then they come have breakfast with us. But, you know, as we're really trying to support the community in our process and are very sensitive to that. So
Thank you, Mr. Wadridge and Mrs. Wadridge. Thank you very much. I don't see, and we have one commenter in the room.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, commissioners.
We'll have
And,
you get sworn in.
Good morning. Do you swear and affirm under oath and penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give is true and factual?
I do.
Please state your name for the record.
Michelle Roque with Rocky Mountain Youth Corps. Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, Commissioners, Co-Chair and Chair. Again, my name is Michelle Roque. I work with Rocky Mountain Youth Corps. I'm a substance misuse preventionist. And I'm just here mainly not in favor or against, mainly just as a support to our new liquor license applicants. So I have a packet here for you guys. And mainly we have signage. We can work with house policy. We also offer free beverage service training. So we offer all these things, and I'm just going to give the packet. That's mainly what I'm here for. So thank you again for your time and the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you for supporting. Is there anyone else either watching online or in the room who would like to comment? Okay, then at this point, Mr. Autiere, we would close the public hearing and then we can have an opportunity to ask our questions. So I'm going to close the public hearing at 10:57. And then commissioners, if you have questions or comments, I just again want to thank the Wadridges for being here and for being part of our economic picture here in Taos County. You all are persistent and have great ideas. So we appreciate you. We appreciate what you're bringing to the energy and services you're bringing to us. And thank you, Michelle, from Rocky Mountain Youth Corps for also keeping your eye on how we do all of this safely. So commissioners, any questions or comments for the applicants or for Rudy?
Madam Chair, yes, my question is, are you on public water or do you have your own well?
No, sir, we have our own well.
Okay.
And the well is the grandfathered in well that was already existing.
The well was there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you have.
It used to have, the car wash used to be on there. So it has the old
Oh,
car
that's right.
wash well.
That's right.
But we ran all new piping from the well, filtered, double filtered, the whole shebang. So, yeah.
Second question, what is your vacancy rate? You don't have very many rooms. So.
We have 7 rooms. And so right now, it's hard to say right now because since we just opened mid-December, we're only getting every holiday, right? We're getting filled like this next week, we're full capacity for the week, which is, thank God. And so we hope for more of that, but it's too early to tell. I don't want to start trying to run those numbers till we kind of keep an eye on that? But yeah.
That's all.
Okay, thank you, Vice Chair. Commissioner Vihil.
Yes, I just want to congratulate Jody and Soshil for their endeavor. It looks beautiful, honestly. I've looked at it online. I haven't actually gone over there. I was going to ask for a local discount so I can get away from my family and I don't have to cook. But anyways, I certainly would love to stop one of these days and take an actual,
Oh, we'd
look
love,
at it. But,
yeah, we'd love to have actually anyone that would love to come by. We'd love to show off the place. And we plan on doing a ribbon cutting. We're still trying to sort that out. So we want to do a ribbon cutting. So maybe we work it out where everybody could come for that. And yeah, we'll serve food.
That would be great. I do remember way back when I grew up here in Taos. So I remember the car wash and, the family going over to the car wash. And I also remember for many, many years, an empty building. So it is so nice to see something happening there. So thank you very much for putting your money into it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and maybe the ribbon cutting sometime after next week. And I think you'll have some interested folks coming in to check out all the good hard work you've done. So thank you. So any further questions or comments, folks? Okay, then what are the wishes of the commission? Because we are taking.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that the license application is approved.
Thank you, Vice Chair Romero.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Can you please call the roll?
Commissioner Vihil?
Yes.
Commissioner Mascareñas?
Yes.
Vice Chair Romero?
Yes.
Chair Brush?
Yes. Congratulations. Your application, from our side anyway, is approved to move forward. So best of luck. Okay, that then moves us on to agenda item number 12, resolutions and ordinances. We have 12A, discussion, consideration, and decision regarding the approval of resolution number 2023-7, a resolution certifying the Taos County maintained road mileage inventory. And with us, we have our Public Works Director, Mr. Joe Fernandez. Good morning. I think it's still morning. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners. I am seeking the approval for the certification of our roads that we currently have within our maintenance coverage. There has been a couple changes to that. First one, which is a RK Ranch Road, it originally had 0.7 miles. We added an additional 0.3, made it a total of a 1 mile stretch. Resolution was shown that we had that in our inventory, but the inventory currently or prior had it only at 0.7. So we went ahead and increased that. The other was removal of one particular road, Carvajal, which actually sits in Upper Ranchitos. That particular section got annexed by the city, so that has been pulled. Yeah. The other changes that were made to the inventory was all of the Pilar area, which encompasses 2.36 miles, was transferred from District 3 to District 5. So that is currently being taken care of by the Peñasco crew. Other than that, the Pilar area is total of 6 roads and 1 bridge. So I stand for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Fernandez. Any questions, Commissioners? Commissioner Vehil.
I'm sorry. Yes, thank you, Chair. Just for the sake of those that are viewing, what is it, when we do this resolution because we're required to do so, but what does the state give us? It's the state, right, that gives us, New Mexico DOT gives us a certain amount of money per road. Is that correct? Just so that people
Right.
understand what we're getting and why we're not able to really fix these roads in the manner that they need.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hill, the county receives 3 grants from New Mexico Department of Transportation. There's a school bus route grant, there's the local road fund, and there's another one, can't remember what those initials stand for. So every March we submit for that funding, and it varies from year to year. It's not a set amount. I believe last year we got about $450,000. We do have to do a 25% cash match, and that's also part of the requirements. And then, so on average, I don't know if Jason put the number together. So on average, we get 50 cents per mile in some years for these 300 and some miles worth of road.
Thank you.
And like you mentioned earlier, this is a requirement by April 1st. We have to certify to the Department of Transportation that these are our maintained roads.
Right. Thank you very much. And Chair, Commissioners, and those that are viewing, the reason why, like I said, I'm asking this question, and although I will say that you do an excellent job out there with what you've got and your team, thank you to the staff out there working on roads. But it's really apparent to anyone who knows how much we get that there's never enough to work on these roads. So we're constantly looking for funding mechanisms in which to fund those bigger projects like Blueberry Hill and Tom Holder, and we're constantly doing that. I think it's important for people to understand that we all want good roads here, and we deserve good roads, and our staff is doing the best that they can. But it's important to understand that we don't get a whole lot at the top, and so we've got to figure out how to bring in that money and maintain what we do have. And hence why sometimes when people come forward and say, hey, will you take on this road? We have to stop and think of whether or not we can really take on another road if we can't even manage the ones in the manner that we need to. So it's important for people to understand that's what's taking place. But thank you. You guys do an excellent job. I get calls all the time, Mr. Fernandez, on how well and how responsive you are to the community's needs.
We've got a good team. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Vehil. Gentlemen, any questions for Mr. Fernandez? Okay. Then I would entertain a motion to approve resolution number 2023-7, a resolution certifying the Taos County maintained road mileage inventory.
Motion to approve.
Thank you. I will second that. So, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Mascarenhas?
Yes.
Vice Chair Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner Vehil?
Yes.
Chair Brush?
Yes. Thank you very much,
Thank
Mr.
you very much
Fernandez.
for your time.
Appreciate you being here. Thank you. And that moves us on to item 12B, discussion, consideration, and decision regarding the approval of resolution number 2023-08, a resolution authorizing to utilize the parking lot of the County Administration Building for certain special events and temporary vendors. Mr. Jaramillo, are you taking this one today?
Yes, Madam Chair, Mr. Addisio may weigh in. Mr. Addisio did work on this resolution for us. We did make some slight changes to it. We sent it back to Mr. Addisio as well. What we wanted to also include was the ability to have car shows and events like that. So again, this is for business-related activity that the commission would be authorizing, and we consider business-related activities like farmers market, crafts fairs, flea markets, and other organized events or exhibits, provided they don't interfere with the normal business operations of this. We also wanted to keep it simple and not also make it overly burdensome as well.
Thank you, Brent. Appreciate it. Commissioner Vehil, you have a question?
I do. It doesn't say here, it doesn't say anything about political events. I'm just curious, how are we going to handle that? When you say any event, or you say events such as, certainly we don't have every event under the sun here listed. So I'm just curious, does that mean political events as well?
No, it doesn't mean political events. We kind of had a little bit of back and forth on that. And then internally, we kind of discussed it as well, that it's really we're saying farmers market, crafts fairs, flea markets, other organized activities. There's a little bit of a trick, because the other thing we had thought about, when we talked internally, was specifically saying no religious or political activities. We get into a little bit of a issue, and I can't remember how you said it last week, Mr. Atiu. Conceivably, either the flea market vending could have religious artifacts, so we don't want to outlaw that. If somebody's selling rosaries or crosses, that we don't want to prohibit that.
That's
So,
correct.
I don't know if you want to add on to that.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, the thought was if you're going to open it for any particular use, then you can't discriminate on who you're going to open it to. If you open it for example, a farmer's market, that was what was on the table most recently. And a farmer's market is a pretty limited type event. But as soon as you get into other sales, which we would have to do, because we can't discriminate against one type of sale. You may, in a flea market situation, you may have multiple items that we don't necessarily endorse, but we would need to allow them to be sold there. And a good example is, so we wouldn't allow it for any type of speech. We wouldn't make it an open venue for people to do any type of public forum activity. It would simply be limited to types of sales. So where politics comes in, or religion, is if someone comes in and says, I want to provide in my booth, I'm a Bible salesman and I'm going to sell these Bibles from here. Well, that's going to be allowed. If you are a political party and you say, I want to register people to vote here in this booth, kind of like they do at county and state fairs, that's going to be allowed. But it won't be a forum for any type of speech. The idea was to not open it up for that. But we won't be able to discriminate against any one particular type of sales, only on the limited reason that it would so shock the public conscience that it's objectionable. You can still prevent things like that from happening. It's like advertisements. You don't have to allow advertisements. City of Albuquerque has allowed advertisements on their buses, but the way that they control is just, it's a matter of taste, and nothing that can be offensive to the community would be allowed. In other words, hate speech or any type of political speech, they really don't allow that. It's, again, just kind of a commercial advertisement. So this would be a commercial use, and that's how we would limit the type of uses that could occur there.
That helps a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Altair. I think you have made it, the work that you all did on this over the last 2 weeks does seem to make it clear that it is more about kind of entrepreneurial events. And just because I think you've also made it really clear that we're not going to discriminate, that doesn't mean that we're going to be able to say yes to absolutely every request. There might be other reasons why we might not be able, because, you know, there's something else that we already committed to, and so on. And I just want to point out that in the resolution, it does say that we will develop a process for requesting authorization from a group, and that at that time, when someone does come to us and say, hey, my organization wants to do whatever, they also must have already gone to the town, right? Because we are on town property. Just want to make sure that that is said out loud here.
Right. So they would go to the tent house, get their written approval from their planning department. We would have that as part of the packet. Ms. Erin Beatty would be the first point of contact here at the county. She would make sure that they have insurance, that they sign a contract. And so Ms. Erin Beatty will be the point person on this. So.
And will Ms. Arambidi also be applications?
I think it's really going to be, Anissa, she already does have a process. So right now, if somebody's renting the exhibit hall at the Ag Center, she's working with them, getting them a contract. She's getting their insurance. So it's an informal process that's not written down, that we could easily write down the steps on.
Okay, we might want to do that, but thank you, Anissa, for. Excellent. Thank you. So should we read your phone number out loud so people can call? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But thank you for running that. And Commissioner Vihil.
Chair, I just wanted to clarify. So it's county property in town boundaries. So you had said town property, but I just want to make sure that the community understands it is a county, but I'm in town boundaries.
There's a provision in the tenant houses code that does require that they get approval, and so that's where we want to make sure the town's on board with them.
Yeah, thank you for the clarification. Any other questions, comments? Thank you guys for moving on this so quickly. I know that our last meeting, we did have the presentation from the farmer's market, and we had requested that we move forward with whatever pieces we needed to be put in place to give them an answer one way or another. So Commissioners, I would entertain a motion regarding this resolution.
Madam Chair, motion to approve Resolution 2023-08.
Thank you, Vice Chair Romero. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Commissioner Mascarenhas. Madam Clerk, if you could call the roll.
Commissioner Vihil?
Yes.
Commissioner Mascarenhas?
Yes.
Vice Chair Romero?
Yes.
Chair Burke?
Yes. Thank you very much. Our resolution regarding our parking lot has been approved. So this takes us to agenda item 13, contracts, agreements, MOUs, and bids. We have item 13A, discussion, consideration, and decision regarding contract TCC 2021-11 R2 with NM local government law, contract renewal for outside counsel through NM local government law. And this is Mr. Jaramillo again. If I could just make one comment though on contracts. I know I've asked for a while that when we have amendments or revisions or renewals that we include in the agenda packet, the original contract, and I saw that all over the place this agenda, so thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, like Commissioner Chair Brush stated, this is renewal number 2 for a contract between Taos County and New Mexico Government Law, LLC. The original contract was awarded after a request for a proposal was issued, and this was done in the fall of 2020. And we went through the process of getting the RFP. New Mexico local government law did respond to that RFP, and then with through contract negotiated, came before the commission in 2021, and that which resulted in contract TCC 2021-11. That contract was for $120,000. There's no changes from last year's contract to this renewal. Mr. Atio's firm remained, kept the same hourly rates for the attorneys. So we want to thank him for that as well. Previously, we had negotiated half the travel rate, and that does continue. And it's pretty straightforward. I stand for any questions. I know Mr. Atio will stand for any questions as well. I know this is a little new to our 2 new commissioners, so we stand for any questions on this.
Thank you, Mr. Jaramillo. Commissioners, are there questions on the contract?
Yeah, Madam Chair.
Okay, Vice Chair Romero.
Yeah. So I have a couple of questions for Mr. Atio. Over the past 2 or 3 months, there's been some discussion about the county possibly hiring an in-house attorney, and the issues have been around the availability of a contract attorney versus a local, and also the issue of getting legal advice with a local perspective, and also maybe if you could expound on the legal advocacy for Taos County. And then finally, if the county were to post a position for an in-house attorney, how would this affect this contract?
Thank you. That is one of the decisions that is the hardest decisions for local governments to make. It's really nice to have somebody down the hall to walk into their office all of the time. I was in-house counsel for 25 years to various governments before I retired and started doing this. And there are advantages and disadvantages to each system. The hardest part of doing these jobs is the legal world is much like the medical world. There are multiple specialties and multiple different arenas that you need to have expertise on. A big advantage from in-house counsel is that they know you, you know them, and there's trust. I've been representing the county both when I was at Robles, Rel, and Anaya, and now since I started my own firm in March of 2020 it was 6 years in November. I know the county legal issues. I know the county employees and elected officials. I'm getting to know you folks very well. I have 6 other attorneys right now. We have a combined it's scary, but it's 200 years of legal experience representing local governments. Our expertise is difficult to acquire in several people working for an organization. I can't answer the question for you, what's better for Taos County, but I know that from my experience now doing this business, we represent a whole bunch of folks who are in the same situation as you are, because we can answer your questions more quickly than it can be done by one person sitting upstairs in that office. When I started, there had been one county attorney and an assistant. As a reference, the city of Albuquerque has over about 40 attorneys now. Santa Fe, Las Cruces, Doña Ana County, all of those places have up to a half a dozen or more attorneys, because there are just so many different legal areas that need to be covered. So we provide that service. Taos County currently has on contract our firm and Robles, Rail, and Anaya assisting with issues as Brent and I decide that they need to be looking at them. They particularly help in HR issues at this time, and they have some great expertise with the jail as well, folks that have experience in that. So I can't answer that question for you about which is better. When you say a local perspective on local law, it certainly is significant, but as I said, my past 6 years doing here, and I'm a lifelong New Mexican, I've been coming to Taos my whole life. I'm not a native, but I think of it as my home. We need to talk about affordable housing, though. Maybe I could move up here. But seriously, that is your own decision to decide which is the best way to do it. If you did it, we could be available as outside counsel to assist a local attorney that you would choose, and that does work in various jurisdictions. And I will stand for any other questions.
What about the availability to other local elected officials in the county and department heads?
It is a challenging thing. One of the hardest things about county government is the balance when you have a county commission of 5 that runs the county, controls its budget and personnel, and then independent elected county officials. We are available. We have one attorney assigned specifically to the assessor now. We've had some challenges with the sheriff's office at times because it's a very intensive relationship when you're looking at them trying to keep the peace in the county and wanting legal advice immediately. I answer all of my messages within 24 hours. We are available between our 7 attorneys to be up here at any time you need us. And I feel like whenever there's a question, we help the clerk during election issues, IPRA issues, and so forth. And any time that there is a question, we are there for those elected officials.
Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Commissioner Vehil.
Yes, Chair. So I have had the opportunity to experience in my 33 years with the county both scenarios. We had an in-house attorney and then of course now with you all. And there are advantages and disadvantages, but I can assure you that, having someone here didn't mean they were necessarily available for an elected official. I was an elected official for 8 years out of those years that I'm talking about. And it's like anything, you have to certainly, make an appointment, they need to find the time to meet with you. It's basically the same. I didn't see a benefit per se. Actually, what I do like about the attorneys that we have now is, just as you've stated, Mr. Atio, the specialties. And God knows that there's all kinds of things that occur within a county. And it's been beneficial to be able to call upon those attorneys that specialize in whatever it is that we're needing assistance with. So that's definitely been proven to be very, very helpful. So I just wanted to share my experience.
Thank you, Commissioner Vehil. Any further questions for either Mr. Jaramillo or Mr. Atio?
Madam Chair, I had one. What about the rates? Could you expound a little bit about your rates?
Well, local government attorneys are generally paid substantially less of an hourly rate than private attorneys are doing private work. Our rates for Taos County were based upon the rates that are allowed to be charged for New Mexico counties. They just in fact raised their rates up to $180 an hour for experienced attorneys and $140 an hour for junior attorneys. I chose not to ask for a rate increase during this period of time because I agreed to these rates for 4 years when we started the contract. And while our, excuse me, while our costs are starting to go up and we are going to need to raise these rates in the future, I didn't want to raise them in the middle of a contract. And I believe it's a very good value. If you look at what the cost is to have 2 in-house attorneys with benefits, a county attorney is going to cost you about what our contract costs. And then you add a second attorney on top of that, and it would be approximately another $100,000. And while that cost effectiveness alone isn't a reason to keep us on contract, I think the most important reason is because when a problem comes up, we've seen it multiple times and can get you the answer faster than someone with less experience. And that's what you're paying for when you hire us. As I like to tell people, I have been thrown under the bus so many times that I can fix the transmission of a bus pretty easily. And that's just part of the nature of those hard knocks that life gives you in this business and the problems that you face. So with that, anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry,
Commissioner
Chair, if
Vehil?
I could just say, for the elected officials, of course, it's important that they feel that they have access to the attorney. So I would just say that if there's an elected official that just feels like they're not getting that, by all means, I know, Mr. Atio, you'd be open to that conversation. And certainly I would say share that information with that the elected official would share that information with our county manager, is we want to make sure that all elected officials feel like their questions and concerns are answered.
And anytime that they want it, I give them my cell phone and I'm available whenever they need us.
Thank you. And thank you for keeping your price at the same rate. And when everything is going up, it's kind of nice to see that someone is willing to leave it alone for a bit.
Thank you, Commissioner Vehil. Any further questions or comments? Okay, then I will move that we approve contract TCC 2021-11R2 with NM New Mexico Local Government Law, a contract renewal for our outside counsel through New Mexico Local Government Law. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Vehil. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Mascareñas?
Yes.
Vice Chair Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner Vehil?
Yes.
Chair Brush?
Yes. Thank you very much. Okay. Moving on to agenda item number 14, our consent agenda. Before we move forward, Commissioners, if there is anything between item A and G that you would like to have pulled for discussion, now is the time to make that request. And again, thank you to staff for including original contracts where those apply. Okay, then if
Motion to approve consent agenda as listed on our agenda.
items A through G.
A through, yes.
I think, and I will second the motion to approve consent agenda items A through G. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Mascareñas?
Yes.
Commissioner Vehil?
Yes.
Vice Chair Romero?
Yes.
Chair Brush?
Yes, thank you very much. So now we move on to agenda item 15, county managers reports and matters. Mr. Jaramillo, you'll start us off with item A, update to the county commission on various items affecting Taos County.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. We've had a meeting, as I indicated, with the last commission meeting, that we would meet with Senator Heinrich's staff and Senator Lujan's staff. We did that regarding congressionally directed spending. We do plan to meet with Congresswoman Teresa Ledger Fernandez's staff as well. We put in some pre-proposal submissions, which is for the Historic County Courthouse, Blueberry Hill Road, John Dunn Switchback Study. That one there, we have a little bit of a challenge because there might not be an account for that. That's something Mr. Silva is working on. And then there was something else unique that we were trying to do. This was actually a recommendation of Ms. O'Connell from Senator Heinrich's office about throwing in a wild idea, and that is economic development at the community center. So we could maybe partner with SBDC and have different economic development opportunities at the community center. And then also maybe do some renovation, get some computers or some desks for the community centers. And that would be available to the public, would be available for folks that want to talk about a business idea. And then we have a space for Mr. Kenwar from SBDC to go and meet in Penasco, go and meet in Arroyo Seco. So it was a little bit of a wild idea and how we can get some construction work in there. The other thing that we identified is that we need money for our fire department buildings as well. We want to build 3 new firehouses, and we don't have all the capital for that. So we thought we'd throw that in there as well. So the process we need to get now is letters of support. Mr. Madrid's working on, has an idea of helping get the letters of support for all the projects that we listed. And we thought it was important to work with the congressional staff on how to better understand the process so we could take advantage of any opportunities. Ms. O'Connell did indicate in which areas there was a lack of applications last year, those being in hazard mitigation type of activity. So we would argue our fire departments fit into that, or any equipment is in that fire mitigation aspect of it. So any questions on congressionally directed spending?
I'll just say thank you for the update. And I like that we're being asked to do, as you said, and as Rita said, something wild. I mean, we do need the basics, right? We do need Blueberry Hill Road. We need these things that have been on our list, and we need the funding to push over the finish line. But at the same time, stretching a bit to get other things, other new ideas and new efforts in the community is I would argue, also a good thing.
And the other thing that I think both Ms. O'Connell and Ms. Quintana mentioned is we got to look at this in 18 months of where we need to be with something. So when it comes to the Historic County Courthouse as an example, it's going to be in 18 months, we're going to need, well, hopefully we're going to be needing HVAC and the environmental system. So our request is more based around what's going to happen in 18 months. Blueberry Hill is another example of that hopefully this would be money for phase 4 or 3, depending on how we get other DOT monies. So, so we're looking that, in 18 months, we're not going to get the whole $11 million from New Mexico DOT, but if we can be thinking 18 months down the road, and that's kind of where we're going to be in phase 4 of Blueberry Hill.
Thank you. And Commissioner Vihil, you had a question?
Yeah, the economic development with centers, that's really interesting. I actually think that's not a bad idea, but I guess I'm thinking about where we currently stand with community centers and the need to fix those buildings. And so, certainly want to not forget that part. I know, for example, Talpa Community Center obviously does provide computers for the community. So they're already pretty much leading the way. It's great to see what this might be able to do to expand that. But my only comment, I guess, and I'm thinking about where we stand on community centers, and I'm wondering if there's any way we can get some help with those, because I know there's plenty that need some additional work.
Right. No, we're
In regards
trying
to the
to
building
do,
itself, yeah.
yeah, because it's more on the construction that they need, but there's not the buckets that fit that type of work.
Thank you. And Vice Chair Romero, did you have a comment or a question?
Are we on questions in general or?
Just for what
Okay.
Brent is, for the
I have some
congressional, just directed spending. So, okay, then we can hold it. And Brent, if you want to continue with your update.
So then, next week, we'll be meeting with the department heads and the countywide elected officials. Also was left. So we have the budget calendar for next year. So we will be providing to every department their budget worksheets that they need to fill out. And we'll be sending the commission the calendar as well. So we got the calendar in place. Ms. Vale's working on producing the budget worksheets that will be distributed next week. We will be providing general instruction to the departments and the county-wide elected officials. Did I tell the department heads that we're here at the meeting, and we'll send an email that they can bring their office managers or bring anybody that's working on the budget. And Ms. Vale will be providing that budget instruction as well. Switching to lodger's tax. You'll see there's gonna be an ad in the newspaper this week asking, Taos County is seeking the letters of interest from eligible individuals to serve on a 5-member lodger's tax advisory board that would advise the county commission on the expenditures of authorized funds for advertising, publicizing, and promoting tourist attractions and facilities throughout Taos County. Eligibility is 2 members who are owners or operators of lodging subjects to the occupancy tax, 2 members who are owners or operators of industries that primarily provide services or products to tourists, 1 member that represents the general public. The business operations representatives representing the general public all must be located or reside in unincorporated areas outside of the unincorporated town or village limits. So that's what's going to be in the paper for this Thursday. So we took a different little bit of a process. Is we're going to get the letters of interest and then let the commission select from who submits their letters of interest. And so Mr. Madrid and got this to the paper, and that's what will be coming out. So the deadline is March 17th. So if you know of anybody that meets that definition, please ask them to consider applying. We had 2 individuals in here, or technically 3 individuals in here that met that definition. Mr. Bradley, the Will Cox, can't pronounce their last name, they would meet that definition. The other thing we need to be careful of is it has to be from nobody from that resides in the town of Taos or any of the incorporated municipalities can't apply. Is there any questions on that?
Chair? Thank you. The town of Taos has their own lodging, they get lodger's tax as well, and they have their own board, is that correct?
Correct.
Yes, okay, and hence why we are focused on outside the boundaries of town, because they
Right.
town already has.
Well, that's part of the statutory requirement is that anybody that sits on the board has to come from outside the unincorporated area.
Yeah, and I just wanted to, well, it looks like we only have 2 people listening, but it's important for the community to understand that lodger's tax, the town and the county each have a program designed to help. And so I hope people understand and, reach out to, to the town as well.
Right. So there's actually more than two people listening. That's
Oh, I'm
on
sorry. It
Go
says-
to, but we're,
Oh, okay, I only see two here.
yeah.
Yeah, but we're on YouTube.
Yeah.
We're on
Got
YouTube.
it.
We're
Thank
trying to
you for
direct,
clarification.
we're trying to direct the traffic to
YouTube
YouTube.
instead of go to. Got it.
Right, so it's
Super
a
glad
good,
to hear that.
it's a good segue. So if there's somebody that can't present, they'll present on Go to.
Mm-hmm.
But if they can we're encouraging folks to be present versus trying to do their presentation online.
Okay.
So if we want to get folks here in person, because we think in case there's any technology issues like we had the last meeting, that's part of the reason trying to drive the traffic to YouTube as well.
Thank you, Brent. So commissioners, any questions for Brent on the budget calendar update or the lodgers tax board update?
Madam Chair,
Vice
is
Chair
there a
Miller.
deadline on when?
March 17th.
17th?
Yeah, March 17th.
Thank you, Brent.
And then we are migrating to the cloud. So Mr. Miller is working on that migration. We're going to be moving at a department at a time. So you might be seeing a little bit of changes in your emails. We're going to be doing this OneDrive concept. And those of you that use OneDrive already on personal side, you'll be able to, work on a document here, take your laptop home, and it'll still be there. So for those that do take work home, be a little bit more efficient, or if you're traveling, and then everything will be off-site. There'll be more security on the cloud server. So Mr. Miller did communicate. You'll see that in your emails as well, that talking about archiving the files and deleting things that are unnecessary. So Mr. Miller did present to the department heads yesterday on his goals for this cloud migration and the email migration. Currently, as of March 1st, we have a vacancy rate of 25% countywide. That is down by 2%. One of the items that we've been working on, and I'll have something to share with you a little bit later, is our recruitment and retention plan. We are looking at four different areas. First is we're looking at the 1% para buy down. I know I've mentioned it to the commission before, and Ms. Elam's already been in contact with para about getting that process started. And that way it'd be effective for the first full pay period in July. And then we're also looking at a buying down, going from 90% health insurance for the employee to go to 100% paid insurance. That is looking like a very doable number. And so, and that would give us another marketing tool to say as we're advertising our positions, that we have 100% paid insurance. What that means to the employee, depending on their plan, but the most expensive plan is they pay $43 per pay period. So in effect, if this goes through on a calendar year, we'd be putting $1,032 back into an employee's pocket by doing the 100% buy down. The other thing that we're working on is a retention amount given to the employees. And we're looking at, and then we're looking at a second thing for new employees. So if they apply here at the county, we're looking at giving them a $1,500 in effect a sign-on bonus. What's the word we're going to use? Hiring incentive. We didn't want to use the word sign-on bonus. So $1,500 approximately a month after you start. And then you complete the year and get off of probation, you get a second $1,500. So a total of $3,000 just paid out in two payments for any new employees. That is subject to tax. And then as part of the retention component of it is we're looking at that same dollar amount for current employees right now. If somebody leaves within the calendar year, there would be it would be prorated on what they would need to pay back. So we want to both recruit and retain employees, and we are looking at doing this monetarily as well as doing the health insurance, the para buy down. So that's what we're working on. That's what we've been meeting on last week, and we met on it yesterday as well.
If I may.
Thank you. Yeah, Commissioner Beal.
Sounds exciting. Quick question in regards to the hiring incentive and retention. Is that coming out of the ARPA funds? Because obviously we can use that for.
Right now, that's what we had proposed to come out of the ARPA
things
funds
like
on the
that.
second tranche.
Okay.
I just wanted to double check everything. We know it's an eligible expense, but I want to
You
be
just
able
want, we
to be
appreciate
able
you
to give
double.
you that citation.
So if I may continue by asking, the compensation plan on it's important. Well, that's different. That's not going to come from ARPA. That's going to come from revenue, reoccurring revenue, which is really super important that we see our assessor real soon in regards to what those numbers might look like. So just a reminder, commissioners, that that's super important as well. We definitely want to make sure that we continue. Thank you, Gina. I know you're working really hard and the staff on the compensation, but it's good to see these different things coming forward. We've heard about it in different counties. It seems to be working. And so thank you.
Yeah, and I will just echo that. Thanks. Like these retention and recruiting tools that you all are mentioning to us today seem like just like very real things, right? Very real incentives, a $1,500 payout or all health insurance paid. So I really appreciate you guys finding a way to do more to try to get our staff here and happy. So thank you so much.
And then the other thing that that Gina suggested is mentorship program. I was going to call it Big Brother, Big Sister. Joe put that into my head yesterday because when we were talking about now, we talked about with the department heads yesterday. So also pairing up a mentorship program for like new employees, but not with their current supervisor. So it'd be a little bit different. So we'd maybe pair up Joe or one of his employees with somebody in planning department or planning with Rachel. So kind of get a chance for people to walk in other people's shoes. And that way they understand it from a different perspective. Planning and public works actually work more together than people realize. And there's a lot of reviews that Mr. Silva does, and he's working with Mr. Fernandez on it as well. But finding ways to pair up different folks and let them walk in each other's shoes is kind of the goal behind it.
Yeah, that's a really great idea. It starts to also build relationships and connections across county departments, right? Commissioners, any questions for Brent so far on either vacancy rate, recruitment, retention, or our IT updates?
Well, no questions, but a clarification on my part. I often have to pause and remember that we have people viewing and may not understand some of the things that we're saying here. So I'd like to, I mentioned the assessor's office and the importance in going forward with the compensation plan. It's important for people to understand that the assessor's office, the revenues that come from there is 85% of our budget. So when we're looking at any reoccurring cost or programs that we need to continue forward, we always look at the assessor to get a picture of the community and what's, numbers wise, revenues. And so hence why I mentioned assessor. I just wanted people to understand that's the reason why we look at the assessor. There's a statute that requires a maintenance plan, and that plan is to tell us how they're going to manage the values going forward to make sure that they're fair and equitable. And so we really hold to and wait for the numbers that are brought forth so we can strategize on our end on how we're going to make these things happen.
Thank you. Brent, do you have more updates for us?
We did receive an email today, and we don't have the dollar amount. There might be some state funding for Aguas Caliente Bridge. And so we had been putting in our own funding into this. So there might be some additional state funding. We don't have the dollar amount on it, but we've been trying to track down this funding for quite a while now. And so that'll be a good thing, because then that will save us some money for 399 fund, because we had pledged 700,000 of our own money for that as well. And with that, I stand for any questions.
Thank you. Good updates. Commissioners, any other, we've asked as we went along, but are there any other questions for Brent?
Yeah, Madam
Vice
Chair, I had
Romero.
a question regarding the meeting with the town of Taos. It seems like there are a number of different issues out there, whether it's recycling or detox center or parks, that we just need to really have a real heart-to-heart discussion with the town, and preferably that it be in person, because to me it's more like a brainstorming type of event. Is that in the works to actually do that?
Mr. Gonzalez and myself, we're going to meet this week. We'd meet towards the end of the week to plan out the next joint meeting as well. So that is on our radar to work on that.
And we typically, Chair, if I may, we typically do meet in person. I think we just have had a couple of situations that didn't allow us to.
The last time was because of the urgency in getting the MOU passed regarding the Taos Housing Partnership.
And not
so
everyone being available here in Taos, correct?
Right. I believe that was the only one that we didn't do in person.
Right.
So, thank you. But since Vice Chair Romero mentioned the detox, did you want to provide the latest update on?
As the commission's aware, town of Taos did receive approval on the transfer of the building from the town of Taos to Taos County. So we're grateful that came through. We did pick up the keys last week. They did send an email to Mr. Trujillo, who works for Mr. Atio, let's move forward with the draft final of the lease agreement. We still need to get the appraisal done. We did outreach to the appraiser last week that we had the key to the building. He hasn't picked it up yet, so he needs to go into the building and do what appraisers do inside the building as well. So we're getting close to being able to offer detox service to a provider.
Thank you, Brent. And I'll just provide a shout out, a thanks to the town of Taos and Mayor Maestas for pushing this over the finish line. And it's connected to the congressionally directed spending that you were talking about earlier, right? That was one of our stretch or wild ideas last year, was to request $3 million to double that building size and space. And we were awarded that last round. So that's a project that will be at some point when we can pay, when we can get that going, we'll get that going. Commissioner Vihon?
Yes, I'm super, super excited to hear about this. You know that I've been asking probably almost every week, where are we at? What do we need to do? But my question now is, are we ready to put that RFP out? What's our next steps, and do we have a timeline in which we can actually start serving the people of Taos?
We don't have a timeline because we need to get that appraisal
So it's
done.
contingent on that appraisal?
It's contingent on the appraisal getting done, and then that will just determine fair market value, and then we need to find a provider that would be willing to go into the Taos County Detox building.
Right, but Mr. Jaramillo, meanwhile, the RFP doesn't, that's not contingent on the appraisal because that's a scope of work.
No, that's not contingent.
So we
on that.
can move forward on the,
I know Mr. Madrid has met with Ms. Vihon, and it's, we're also trying to set up that process for success as well. So that's why we're talking to the outside consultant on making sure that detox is set up for success, set up to build, to do everything. We want the detox to be successful. I feel like I'm not answering your question.
so are you referring to the scope of work that's going to be placed on the RFP, that we want to make sure it's accurate?
The scope of work for the RFP is to provide funding to a provider whose clientele does not have Medicaid. And so they're medically indigent, and that's what that funding would be used for.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I guess just, Chair, if I may, I know we've been waiting for quite some time, and we're getting closer. We really are. And so I mean nothing bad by this. I'm just trying to figure out, what that timeline might look like. And I get that the appraisal, we're on the mercy of the appraiser because obviously it's a professional service. They probably have tons of work on their plate. But I guess my concern is that if we go over one hurdle and then we clear that, and then we go over another hurdle. I'm just wondering if we can simultaneously do some things to try to move that forward. My biggest concern is the need for the community. And I know you share that same need. We all care what happens here in Taos. It's just that sometimes it seems like that we get over one hurdle and then we're trying to clear the next. And I just want to kind of think a little bit broader, and that, can we do the RFP while the appraisal is being done? And is there any other issues that are going to come up with zoning? And, can we start working on and thinking about what else is going to be in front of us so that we're not saying a year from now?
We are thinking about already about the expansion of the building. We need to get an RFP for an architect to expand the building. Right now, we're at the mercy of capacity. That's our
That's
hurdle.
fair.
So,
I understand that.
I mean, we have, as you guys all know, we have the capacity issue in finance. So it's working on budget. She's working on budget, and we're working on budget, and then the same folks that need to put out the RFP as well as do out several other different RFPs at the same time too.
Thank you for the reminder. And sometimes we do need to be reminded the capacity is a real concern and reality.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Brent. Any further updates, or can we move on to 15?
Well, we can move on real quick, but just keep in, we're going to be working with Mr. Punya on doing our next retreat topics and doing the continued goal setting for the commission and providing myself and staff direction. So we'll be looking to schedule that probably in 2 weeks from today. Commissioner Romero will be able to attend, and we'll be able to have a retreat and a goal setting session on that. The other thing that we asked relating back to budget is those that had some monetary request that they presented to you at the December retreat to start tying that back in to their requests during budget.
Excellent, thank you. And then I think that takes us to item 15B, our update on the historic county courthouse. Mr. Sanchez, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Things are moving slowly and delicately along at the courthouse project. Like I said earlier, 2 weeks ago, or maybe a month ago, the more you dig, the more you find. We've removed a 500-gallon petroleum tank that was probably used initially for the initial boiler and heating in the courthouse. Along with that, we've also relocated multiple electric lines that were in the middle of the property, backfeeding, a little bit of a spaghetti setup in there, but Kit Carson and our contractor worked together well. We've relocated the lines so they're out of the way. Demolition has started on the porch, on the portal. I have sent some pictures. So that picture is on the west side. That's the portal section that was added after the initial construction. It was probably done from the pictures that we have sometime in the late 30s, early 40s, that porch. So it's not part of the original historical structure. And so that's already down. If we move over to another picture, let's see. That's another picture of the same area from the front. You can see how rotten it is. Luckily, it's not attached to our neighbor's building. It wasn't really attached to the courthouse. So it's come off pretty easily. From there, we'll be working east on the original historic courthouse portal. So you can see yesterday afternoon, it's completely gone. That's the beginning of the demolition. You can see the posts are rotten and need to be replaced. Luckily, like I said, those aren't the historical part of the building, so I'm not too concerned about that. That all gets reconstructed. The part of the ever-changing construction, sidewalk was taken up, and what do we find underneath the sidewalk? Another sidewalk. So that's another section that'll get taken out. Like I said, it's just a little bit unwrapping an onion. You think there's something here, you take that layer off, you can see. So the original sidewalk was about 4 inches lower than the entrance into the courthouse. All that will be brought up and resloped and match the existing portals to our east and west, but will meet ADA compliance standards. Like I said, it's just been a little bit of unwrapping an onion, slow and delicate. The next phase is, like I said, is they're working on the original portal from the west side, working east. Our goal is to salvage as much of the historical timbers and vigas as we can. That roof has been in fairly good condition. One of our big concerns was how the vigas are attached to the building. So that they'll be taking the parapet off, they'll be taking off the roofing material, and then we'll look at the vigas, the structure. All the posts on the historical portal will probably have to be replaced because they are all suffering from rotting on the bottom. They'll be elevated above the sidewalks the way current codes require so that they don't get as much moisture on them. But our goal is to salvage as much of the original structure as possible. I did receive yesterday the finalized change order number 1 for the additional $2.1 million that the state legislature awarded us. And so we have all the paperwork now. I'll bring that to next commission meeting for approval and signature. But we're waiting for the fund and budget and the final grant agreement on our federal funding, the 1.2 million. So like I said, as the funding comes, we increase our scope. The good thing is our contractor is is under contract through state procurement, so we can adjust our scope of work as our funding increases and keep the process of construction. So we're not doing too much 2 steps forward, 1 step back, as we will have to do in certain aspects, but trying to keep that to a minimum to get the most bang for our buck. Any questions?
Thank you, Richard. Appreciate the update. Any questions for Vice Chair Romero?
Madam Chair, Richard, what is contractors' work schedule? Are they doing 5-day work week?
They're doing 410s right now, and they'll probably continue with 410s throughout the project, depending on what's actually happening. Along with what's going on demolition-wise, I've had meetings with the town of Taos, the town's manager, the deputy manager, the subcontractor who is putting in the utilities, site utilities, new storm drain, everything, which have to cross the plaza. Town of Taos has, initially we were going to try and keep half of it open, come halfway across, put piping and everything in, cover that up, come back so we could keep traffic flow. Town of Taos is of the mindset they would rather close the plaza down to traffic for a week and let the contractor just come across, get everything covered up, and be done with it. So that's what's going to happen. It'll happen after Easter, after we get a finalized date. You know, it's kind of a little bit of a dead area. The ski season's over, summertime hasn't started, so we're going to try and get it there. As soon as we have a date to do it, I will be going out to all the businesses. As soon as I find a date, we'd like to have a month's notice to give all the businesses notification. We'll publish it in the paper. We'll have it announced here at our commission meetings, and we'll know the date. And that way, try and just keep all the public informed as much as possible and let them know what's happening. But I think it works out better. It's better for construction to be able to do it that way. I think it's safer for the public also. So that's our whole goal.
Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Commissioner Mascarenhas.
Madam Chair, Richard, just that hidden alleyway that's there, what are the plans for that?
So originally, after the courthouse burned down in 1932, and this was constructed. So originally it was a walkway. There's actually doors from the original courthouse. There was a sidewalk that brought you out to the plaza. The west alleyway will be 50% back, new structure. That's where the elevator will be in place, elevator lobby, handicap accessibility from the north side, and a fire exit from the second floor out to the north side. And then the south side, south half of it will be a little landscaped area that you'll walk out into the portal on the plaza.
Thank you. It's great to hear that the work and to see that the work is moving along. And delicately is probably an excellent way to describe how it needs to be done. So thank you so much, Richard. Appreciate the update a lot.
All right.
Thank you. And that brings us to item 15C on the agenda, discussion, consideration, and decision regarding a memorandum of understanding between Taos County and AFSCME Local 1193 for the increase of the shift differential pay to increase to $2 per hour for the Adult Detention Center, EMS, and dispatch. Mr. Jaramillo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You just said it right there. We're looking to amend the one section in the collective bargaining agreement to go from a shift differential pay of 90 cents to $2 per hour. And we're hoping this also is another marketing tool to incentivize individuals to may apply for this. We need like I mentioned to the team, we do need to come up with a marketing program, but it also regarding the shift differential, but it also helps with existing employee base it's another shot in the arm for the good work that they're doing, also for being able to, in a sense, stick it out with us. Mr. Zaragoza is sitting in the back. This was his recommendation to come from 90 cents to $2. So has some other recommendations that we're going to be sitting down with on the union as well. And we have some more internal conversations as well. But this is something we knew that was doable immediately. We spoke for both unions. We spoke with both union presidents, and they were in favor of this. So it's for anybody that's on shift, basically 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. In the collective bargaining agreement, it does specifically call out those departments, and that's why we're doing it that way. And something a little bit exciting. It's something, again, trying to incentivize the recruitment of employees and also retain employees. And also sometimes, and Mr. Zaragoza can tell you that it's the nighttime shifts that are a little bit harder to fill. So maybe this extra $1.10 per hour would incentivize somebody for working or requesting that shift versus a daytime shift.
Thank you, Brent, and thank you both for working on this and getting this to point that these departments that we're trying to address with the shift differential, they're critical. It's hard and taxing and often troubling work. So in my mind, this is a well-deserved move because I know it's extra taxing and troubling when we are not fully staffed. And I know we've gone in and out of that over the last several months. So thank you for sticking with it, and thank you for bringing us a proposal that can help with the situation. Commissioners, any questions or comments on this? Commissioner Vihil.
Just a comment. I'm once again really excited to hear of this this coming forth. I think you've said it very well. I won't add to that because you said it so well. But I just admire the fact that we've got department heads just stepping up and bringing these ideas, and of course Gina and Brent and the staff for just working on trying to get this to happen. I know often it takes a lot of work to get to that yes, but I hope that the staff realizes that we do value them. We understand that they deserve way more, and so we're tackling it little at a time. So appreciate it.
Right, it's a multi-pronged approach, and I don't know how many sleepless nights Robert has had worrying about those employees and worrying about coverage, and the law enforcement departments have provided meals. Mr. Silva has taken meals over. I've offered to. It's just taxing, and.
I just have one question. Like, when would this take effect? Should we, as we need to take action today.
So-
Should it be successful, when would it take?
For the current pay period we're in.
Very
So this has been reviewed by legal counsel, and so legal counsel has concurred with it. We ran this by like I said, both union presidents on item C and D, and it'd be effective this pay period. And like I mentioned, we do need to figure out a way to market this. So we welcome any ideas as well. And public service is a worthy ambition, and we need employees, and we need as much help as we can.
Okay, team, what are your, unless there are any other questions, what are your wishes regarding this MOU?
Motion to approve the MOU.
Thank you, Commissioner Mascarenhas. Is second, and second from Commissioner Vihil. Madam Clerk, please call roll.
Commissioner Vihil?
Yes.
Commissioner Mascarenhas?
Yes.
Vice Chair Romero?
Yes.
Chair Brush?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for the hard work. And this brings us to related item 15D, discussion, consideration, and decision regarding an MOU between Taos County and AFSCME Local 2911 for the increase of the shift differential pay to increase to $2 per hour for the Sheriff's Office.
Recommend approval. Like I said, I did speak with President Romero on this, and he concurred with it. And we thought let's treat all public safety departments the same and move all of them to the $2 per hour. Yes, we can afford it on budget.
Any questions about this one, Commissioners? Okay.
I will make a motion to approve. I agree that we should always consider all the safety, areas equally.
Okay, and I will second.
Second.
Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the roll. Thank you.
Commissioner Vehil,
Yes?
Commissioner Mascareñas,
Yes.
Vice Chair Romero,
Yes.
Chair Brush.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. And with that, we're on item 16, Commissioners' Reports and Matters. Item A is new business that we might want to consider at a future commission meeting. Commissioners,
I have nothing
anything
to
you want
add at this time. There's a lot going on already.
Yeah, there is a lot going on, and I think we know what we need to be dealing with in the next commission meeting, so.
I didn't write it down, but I meant to write it down. April 4th, our internal auditors will be here to present the audit. Just because the number of presentations we already had, we pushed that back. 100% communities, the school portion, community school action team will be presenting the next commission meeting. Rural Partners Network that we're partnered with San Miguel, Mora County, and Rio Arriba County. Our local representative was hired, Raul Hurtado. Some of you might know him from the Forest Service, so he's going to come to the next meeting and make a presentation. And then we had already a second, the Taos County Chamber of Commerce will be on April 4th.
I believe Veterans Off Grid has also requested. Yeah. Yes. So, yeah, we have a lot coming.
We
before
have
us.
a lot of requests, because you're right, Veterans Off Grid has also requested to be on the agenda. Okay, let's move to 16B, Commissioners' Announcements. Commissioners.
And I did want to add to that, if I may, Chair, also the conversation around the top of foothills. That is also something that the community wants to bring over to us. And so I'm not sure in what format or how that will look, but I did want to at least say it since you've been talking about presenters in the upcoming commission meetings.
And did you want to give any announcement about that under?
Yeah,
Commissioners' announcements?
actually, the last working group meeting, we agreed as a working group to extend the meeting out a little bit further to get some community feedback. We had a tight schedule, and the working group felt that it was appropriate since it seemed pretty apparent to us that in one of the community meetings we did have, that the public is not quite aware of what that whole top of foothills may look like, and had many questions and concerns. So it seemed like we had a consensus in order to add an extra couple of months to the schedule. And so I think that's great. As I stated earlier, you can have the best idea in the world, but if you don't get that feedback from the community, it's just not very helpful. It actually works against any great idea. And so I'm very appreciative that the Carson National Forest was very open to that. And so it seems like the town of Taos, and certainly want you commissioners to hear firsthand all the information. And so I think there's also going to be another community event out there to get some more feedback. And it's just doing, I guess, what would you call that? Democracy, right? We get people coming in telling us what their concerns and ideas, and just giving us that feedback.
Thank you, Commissioner Vehil.
I'll keep you posted on what that schedule looks like going forward, but just keep in mind that the community wants to be able to come here as well.
Gentlemen, any announcements from then? I just have one this Saturday from 2 to 4. The Together with Veterans group is meeting at Coronado Hall, so in the conference room right next to where the town council meets. And this is Together with Veterans, and full disclosure, I'm on the steering committee, is a primarily veterans-run group, even though I'm not one, designed to help prevent suicide in veterans in rural areas, where we have special challenges and special risks for suicide in general, but especially among veterans. So the community is welcome. This is like the second community-wide meeting. The first one was late October, where
the room was packed and the community discussed what our strengths are, what our weaknesses and threats to providing services to veterans who are at risk. And this is going to begin, this conversation will be to kind of like sum up and recap what was learned and discussed that day, and then also begin to move forward with a strategic action plan. So everybody is welcome. There will be food and coffee. So 2 to 4 on Saturday, right next to where the town council meets. So please come if you can and you're interested.
And I'm sorry, Chair, can I share one more thing?
Absolutely.
So I have been invited to attend an event in Washington, D.C. The organization is called ECHO. It stands for Hispanics Enjoying Camping, Hiking, and Outdoor Recreation. And so I've been asked, as well as Cordelia Ortega from the town, to head that way. And so we'll be leaving, I believe, on the 27th for a couple of days and just advocating in regards to what I just talked about, enjoying camping, hiking, and outdoor recreation.
You're going to DC all the time now.
Yeah, I know. First they couldn't get me out of here. Now they can't keep me home.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to item 16C, possible letters of support. I know a couple of us have been approached like, hey, can Taos County provide a letter of support? And the way we tend to do that is to just put it quickly on the agenda so that that we are all aware of what we're putting our name to, and we have the opportunity to raise any concerns or questions. So the letters of support that we've been asked for is one for the Paseo project going after State Department of Tourism grant money, a couple for Not Forgotten Outreach, primarily going after USDA grant funds, and then also for our mutual domestic water associations, there's one from Llano Camado, and then El Valle Water and Sanitation District. Those are for congressionally directed spending.
And Chair, we've got another one.
Okay.
And so I know it's not on our list, but I did get an email from Delfino Torres also asking for the same as the Talpa Water Association, and that is they have a project to replacing lead water lines on Altros Road area. So they're basically asking for a letter of support.
Okay.
So I ask that we consider that as well today.
So those are the requests we've had. Some for federal support, and at least one for state support. So.
Motion.
No, I think it's really more just for awareness so that we're all, because, just like with capital outlay, we don't go out individually and with our own things, we like to make sure that we're all at least informed and unified, but it typically isn't an action item, if that's okay. Okay, so that takes us to 16D, our board or committee reports for the boards and committees that we are officially asked to sit on. And we have the Taos County Cooperative Weed Management Area Board.
Okay, well, I'm going to make this really, really short. I unfortunately didn't nail down the dates in which Noxious Weeds event, an annual event that takes place every summer. And so I just kind of a heads up, it's going to be happening, but I will certainly come back with some actual dates and additional information. I'll leave it at that.
Great, thank you very much. If then there's nothing else, this takes us to the end of our agenda. I would entertain a motion to adjourn at 12:24.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Commissioner Mascarenhas. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Vice Chair Romero. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Vihel,
Yes?
Commissioner Mascarenhas,
Yes.
Vice Chair Romero,
Yes.
Chair Brush.
Yes, okay, thank you, everybody. We are now adjourned.